the legendary trainer Red. The first protagonist in all of Pokemon. The one that began a lifetime of joy for people everywhere. And the one that would strike fear into the hearts of those who would dare to travel up the mountain to meet and challenge his team. But where did it all begin? Well, of course, it started in little old Pallet Town, all with Chapter 1 of the Pokemon Adventures Manga. And I'm here to share with you the entire story, from our humble beginnings and evil gym leaders, to the secret power of Team Rocket, and even the resulting championship of a hero in Pokemon Adventures, the Red Arc. Howdy there, I'm Krillic, and I could not be more excited to share with you this fun story of Pokemon Adventures, as I honestly read what is actually technically the Red, Blue, Green arc, but you can't really title it that way, it doesn't work. So, this is the first 3 volumes of the Pokemon Adventures manga, and I'm here to share with you the entire arc story that happens with it. And I want to tell you this, if you haven't read it, be prepared to relive your childhood once more, as when I read it, I was teary-eyed from sentimentality and then hyped up from the battles, and every passing moment only made it better. It didn't waste time, and neither will I, as I loved every second, and I just want you to know you should support the official release, as I know I will be. So let's begin with Chapter 1, A Glimpse of the Glow. Of course, we get a bunch of kids trying to catch some Pokemon. It doesn't quite work for them, and we get the introduction of Red, claiming to be the best trainer, of course. Now, our protagonists in this are going to be younger. I don't actually remember running into any specific age range, but I'm going to probably say they are young adults, probably between the ages of 10 and 14 at most, considering that's kind of where a lot of our protagonists have landed. Though instead of right away having one of our starter Pokemon, we actually get to see not even a first stage, but a second stage Poliwhirl get brought out to help weaken the wild Pokemon, as Red tells these people how to catch a Pokemon. We of course get a little bit of setup, talking about how this world is inhabited by an unknown, multitude of creatures known as Pokemon, and how Red intends to become the best trainer ever. He does run into Team Rocket, not knowing who they are, and overhearing them, they talk about the Phantom Pokemon. So, Red, being the overconfident kid that he is, decides that, oh, if these guys are looking for whatever this Phantom Pokemon is, and there's this much importance put on it, I guess it's my turn to go hunt this Pokemon down and catch it for myself. We also get a little bit of information regarding somebody who is Oak's grandson, also known as Blue, as you and I would know. Supposed to be an amazingly gifted and well-trained individual who knows his Pokemon and how to battle with finesse. We actually come upon this scene where Blue is already battling with Mew with his Charmander, and gives up. He retracts his Pokemon, and Red immediately comes out saying, why would you do that? Why would you just let this Pokemon get away? And tries to battle instead, saying, oh, if you can't do it, don't worry. I'm the best, baby, I can do this. And sends out his Poliwhirl once more, only for it to get immediately bodied. As Poliwhirl hits the ground, Red is shocked, and Blue turns to say the simple phrases of, I retracted my Pokemon because I could tell it was actually stronger than me. If you can't even do that, you are not a good trainer to begin with. Know your limits. And that's simply the opening and entry to our Chapter 1. As we move into Chapter 2, Bulb Come Home, we have Red actually sneaking into Professor Oak's lab, who hasn't even been introduced yet. He wants to go in because he knows that Oak is going to know a ton about Pokemon. He knows that if he goes to Oak and gets the information he needs, even maybe gets trained up a little bit, maybe could get a strong Pokemon or another good part of Pokemon in general, then he could train up and be better than Blue, catch the Phantom Pokemon, and just be better. As he moves into the lab, sneaking through, he comes across Bulbasaur in the Pokeball. And what's fun about this is that you can see straight through the Pokeball. You can actually see the emotions, how your Pokemon is feeling. Are they in pain? Are they happy? What is going on? And I wish that that was expressed more in the anime, in the games, anything along those lines. That would make me like head over heels in love with this across the board. But it's only in the manga. And I wish it was in more. He tries to show Poliwhirl to Bulbasaur as well, and you can immediately tell there's a little bit of like mental conflict going on as they can see each other through the Pokeballs. All before Oak catches Red, calling him a Pokemon thief, and as Red is trying to be like, oh, it's not me, I'm not a thief, I swear, I snuck in, I was trying to talk to you, I wasn't going to steal anything, he backs up, runs into a wall of Pokeballs, and ends up releasing them with the simple press of a button, as we then see tens of Pokemon just start to waddle, move, run, you name it, as they book it. Now, Red does assist with catching the Pokemon because, again, he says flat out, I wasn't trying to steal Pokemon, I know I picked up the Bulbasaur ball, but that's not who I am, I swear, I will help you catch them all. So, Oak is like, okay, fine, I'm gonna go ahead and turn you in anyway, just help me catch the Pokemon. Well, they catch what's in the lab, but there were Pokemon that did escape, and they don't really know where they're going, but Red is insistent on making up for his mistake. And we start to get better glimpses into Red's character in this chapter, because Red isn't just this absolutely arrogant individual. We start to learn that he's a caring individual, one that wants to be honest and good and caring towards others. And we're going to see that more in a moment as he tells Oak, I am going to catch them and bring them back to you. Oak decides, oh, I can't let you do that yourself. I'm going to help you, and then I'm going to turn you in. And it's a joke. You can tell that Oak is kind of saying it as a joke, because even Red is like, okay, yeah, whatever, sounds good. Completely accepts it. And I personally can't tell if that was Red sitting here going, okay, I messed up. He could turn me in after I help him get all this stuff back. That's fine. Or if that's Red knowing that this is all partially a joke on Oak's part. Oak gets on the bike and they go off. They, as they go, end up in Viridian City. Oak, of course, exclaims, if I knew that this was going to take us as a citywide tour of the city, I probably wouldn't have come. I'm a little too tired for this. I'm a little too old for all of this. And they find out that some of the Pokemon, as they tell them, go into the Viridian Gym. And we get the first glimpse of Giovanni through the bust that is there. And it looks like it's in, fine condition, minus you can't really, see the name. And it's here in the gym that they find Bulbasaur. Oak is like, all right, time to get in the ball, before Bulbasaur full-on just tackles him. It's like, whoa, okay. And it's like, yeah, this is a Pokemon that does not listen to us. Does not listen to me. Don't go forward. And Red doesn't listen. Instead, Red, kind of in a very passive way, walks over to the Bulbasaur and is like, hey, that old man kept you in a ball, completely separate from all the other Pokemon. They were on shelves together. They could be around each other and interact with each other a little bit at least, but you were completely isolated in this lab alone. You didn't really have any friends other than this old man who, didn't really let you out all the time. I get it. If you're uncomfortable, I understand. But how about we make this right? I won't force you into the Pokeball, but you should come with us. And we see the Bulbasaur actually start to soften, to move in. And then, out of nowhere, left field forward, boom! Machoke comes in. A wild Machoke appears and starts attacking. The Bulbasaur tries to save Oak and Red from the Machoke that's ready to actually really continue attacking. And what's really fun about this is the trainers are not safe. The trainers are not safe in basically every single Pokemon battle, even if it's like good-natured trainer versus good-natured trainer. When it is a Pokemon battle, the trainer is in danger too. It's not like the anime and it's not like the games where the trainer gets to sit off on the side and not have to worry about Fire Blasts, not have to worry about Ice Beams, not have to worry about Earthquakes. No, when a move gets let off, when a move gets blasted and it is a Hyper Beam, you need to move as a trainer or you might die. And there is the high stakes of death in this. So we start to understand very quickly why even a singular wild Pokemon is incredibly dangerous. Red tries to back up, the Bulbasaur Vine Whip to grab the Machoke's arm, and he's able to get away, and it's like, hey, the Bulbasaur's listening and helping, this is great, and Oak is knocked out, just foaming at the mouth, just against the wall. So they're running, they're moving. Red and Bulbasaur are still getting attacked by this Machoke until eventually they get to the back wall where there's a window and some boards. And blast the wood open, light filters in, and then Bulbasaur is able to use Solar Beam and blast the Machoke away. As our party recovers, Oak is like, oh, how'd you know about the Solar Beam? And Red goes, no idea. I had zero clue whatsoever. I just had a feeling it would work, you know, sunlight, plants, Pokemon, grass type, it makes sense, right? You know, and Oak sits there and goes, huh, he just kind of figured it out. And you start to see throughout this whole time, Oak was starting to smile more and more, but this is the first time he really laughs, and it's a big, happy, party laugh, and Red's just like, what, why is he laughing? I don't understand. And Oak says, you know what? Keep the Bulbasaur. He seems to like you quite a bit. Red responds and of course saying thank you, and he's like, hey, I wasn't trying to steal any Pokemon, I promise. I was coming to you because I wanted information on this weird Pokemon, and you're the Pokemon professor, and I want to become better as a trainer. And Oak directly states, you know, what makes a trainer a good trainer? Knowing a lot of clever tricks, having a Pokemon powerhouse in your arsenal. Is that what you think makes a great Pokemon trainer? If you do, you're wrong. What counts is what's in your heart. That connection you had with the Bulbasaur, that feeling from deep within, that's the key to becoming a great Pokemon trainer. So Oak asks his name, Red introduces himself, and he gets a Pokédex. And Oak says, you're gonna fill this up, and by the time that you finish filling this Pokédex up, you will have become a great trainer. One of the truly great trainers. And so Oak is like, but you can't stay here. If you want to do this, you have to expand your territory. You have to keep going. And why don't you start with Viridian City? Because that's where, never mind. And Red's like, what do you mean? What do you mean that's where? And he's like, no, he's good. And just Oak continues off as Red sets off with a few Pokeballs to the Viridian Forest. Chapter 3, The Secret of Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan? Whatever. However, I'm going to say Kangashkan because I know that's not the right spelling, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'll do a video saying all the names properly in the future. Just deal with it. In the Viridian Forest, we see Blue with his Charmander take down another Venomoth, which I don't remember it, but it could also be because I haven't read too much on Venomoth, even though I've been going through my ecology series. Go watch that. It does an ecology complete analysis for every single region. But either way, I don't remember ever seeing anything saying that Venomoth has an unusually, or at least just in general, a short lifespan. So that's something that I learned here. Red is trying to chase down a Caterpie as he is trying to fill the Pokédex, sends in the Poliwhirl, hearing a rustling, before he parts the bushes and sees that his Poliwhirl has been knocked flat on its back by Charmander. Which also shows that, you know, Blue is here, who is actually hunting for something that is just about to reveal itself, our Kangaskhan. Kangashkan. Dang it! Blue pulls out his Pokédex, and both of them are shocked to see that each other have a Pokédex in that case. And this is when Red actually realizes for the first time that Blue is Oak's grandson, even though we've of course known this for a long time. Charmander is whipping up flames and burning up this Kangaskhan as much as it can, so that way Blue can catch it. But once he throws a Pokeball, it just, boom, smacks it away. And it's like, okay, one more. Boom, smacks the next one away. It is determined. And Red sits there, is looking at it, and it's like, hold on. You're not attacking. You can see that one arm is kind of on its stomach this entire time. It's only moving with one to fight back. And Red's like, oh my gosh, Blue doesn't know. And Red uses Poliwhirl to douse the flames of Charmander. Blue is like, what are you doing? This is my Pokemon. Why are you doing this? And Red just simply runs up, tells Blue, knock it off as he's running to this Kangaskhan. And it's like, hey, you have a kid. And we get to see the little baby come right out of the pouch. And it's like, you're hurt. You're hurt real bad. You're sick. You're poisoned. And he just takes out a little antidote and sprays up. And the little kid is good to go. And it's like, you're good. I saw. You should be fine now. They set the Pokemon free, much to Blue's distaste of it. But Red retorts back since the last time they met in the forest and says, come on, you know it isn't really winning if your opponent is at a disadvantage. Blue introduces himself officially to Red, and the true rivalry begins. As, of course, with any two protagonists that we get, it always has to be, I'm not gonna lose to you. I'm gonna win. We get one more little thought blurb from Oak as he says, my grandson and my new protege. The path to becoming the greatest Pokemon trainer of all has gotten more competitive. Good luck to you both. And before we continue, if you've liked this so far, please be sure to subscribe, share this with others, and even go watch the other long-form content that I have on this channel, as it helps support the channel. And if you would like, go the extra mile and become a member of the channel, where just for $3 a month, you support research into Pokemon, deep dives, and even this, dives into the manga, stories that people just generally don't talk about, as I love doing this. So again, thank you for watching, and let's continue with the video. Chapter 4, Wanted Pikachu. We see a little poster that is showing a mischievous electric mouse, reward for capture. And of course, it shows Pikachu. Red sees the Pikachu, it's going through and stealing fruit from the stands and decides, yeah, I'm gonna chase after it. He pulls up the Pokédex, and in doing so, there's one little note in there, which I don't see anywhere else, once again, just like with the Venomoth, is that Pikachu are noted or suspected to be highly intelligent creatures, which, yeah, sure, it's the mascot of Pokemon. Give it to him. It's a simple battle, as Pikachu does end up shocking a random person who catches it in a net. Red corners the Pikachu, throws out Bulbasaur, and instead of doing a direct fight, it's like, haha, let's start with this. Sleep powder. Hitting the Pikachu, gets drowsy, catches Pikachu in the ball, and is praised for it by the people. They say that he saved their business, here's all this food, we wish you came from a long time, came a long time ago, and where are you from? And he's like, I'm from Pallet Town, and I'm on a journey to fill out the Pokédex and become the best trainer there ever was. Now, Pikachu is incredibly angry in the ball, and Red's like, okay, you know what, how about I let you out? Let's be friends. And when he tries to shake Pikachu's hand, immediately, just a shock, he's like, ah! Blue appears and just like, yeah, you're going too easy on that Pokemon, aren't you? You're never going to be able to fill out the Pokédex if you're going to keep playing around like that. I'm embarrassed to be your rival on this quest. Blue tells Red all about the gym challenges, actually talking about how, yeah, I'm going to go deal with Brock. He is looking for somebody worthy to fight him, and I intend to be that person. And while I'm at it, I am going to win the Boulder Badge. Oh, you don't know what the Boulder Badge is? Well, let me tell you about it. The Boulder Badge increases the attack power of all of your Pokemon. So how about this? let's start a challenge. Who can get the boulder badge first? And they set off. Now the next day, Red does decide to go to a Poke Center, but that Poke Center is just in shambles, destroyed, burnt, everything, and is unusable due to, as they say, vandals. But this chapter ends as we get a glimpse of Charmeleon in the ring at the Pewter City Gym. Chapter 5, Onyx is on. Audience members who are watching the battle with Charmeleon and the unknown other contestants are already stating that they've never seen anybody blow through the preliminaries to get to Brock this fast before. And considering that Red couldn't use a Pokemon Center to actually heal his team, he's in trouble. Everybody's on low health except for Pikachu, and that's not gonna cut it in a gym like this, so he has one choice and one choice only. Don't get hit. He sends out Poliwhirl against a Graveler on the first match and pulls out the strongest attack, wasting no time and blasting it to smithereens. And he continues doing this step after step after match until he reaches Brock. Brock sits here and recognizes Red as somebody who isn't wasting time, somebody who is worthy of the battle, someone who is strategizing and has great power behind them, that this is going to be a good match. The problem now, though, is that Bulbasaur and Poliwhirl are completely tuckered out. It's not even that they, have low health, it's that their moves are exhausted. They are exhausted. They should not end up in this fight. Red looks down at his ball. It's like, I have one choice, and one choice only. Go Pikachu. And Brock waits. He's like, bring it on. I know you start all your fights with one strong move. Where is it? Why aren't you attacking? Fine. If you're not going to attack, I'll go first. And as he breaks out an attack, we watch as Pikachu, on its own, decides to dodge every single rock that's thrown until it gets hit by one. And it starts to click in Brock's head. And he goes, You aren't a strategist. You aren't doing anything. You are winning by dumb luck. That's it. No, I'm done playing around. I'm going to rip this whole thing apart now. And he has Onyx create like a tornado with its body, ready to slam down on Pikachu and knock it out. In fear of what would happen, because Pikachu's not moving, Pikachu's not caring, not paying attention, doesn't realize the danger that it's in, Red jumps, saves Pikachu, and gets him out of the way of getting hit as Red himself gets hit instead. And Red's like, all right, fine. If you don't want to do this fight, I won't force you. We can step away. I'm sorry. If you don't want to go on your ball, I get it. I won't force you. I care about you. Pikachu, you see the exact moment where it recognizes, oh, this is the first human that isn't just calling me a pest. This is an actual person who showed they cared for me by taking a hit from something that is a lot larger and a lot stronger than him. Okay. Moved by Red's altruism, Pikachu gets up and lets out a massive, shocking blast that somehow knocks out the Onix. We literally have the same exact thing as we had in the anime. I don't know why that works the way it didn't electric types actually have an effect on rock and ground types in the early games? I need to check this out now. Nope. Electric types have never been able to affect ground types whatsoever. So, whatever. It's a powerful enough blast that it can't course through the Pokemon through the ground safely. That's what we're gonna say it is. It was that strong that it defied nature, technically. At the end, we see that only Red and Blue were the ones to actually get the Boulder Badge at the end of the whole gym challenge. And Red tries to introduce Pikachu to the rest of the team and tries to shake hands, only for Red to get shocked once more. Oh, because I forgot it, but it is really funny. After Pikachu did shock the Onix, it did a little ta-da at the end, which, yeah, that's pretty fitting of our lovely little arrogant mouse. Is it weird that I like the Pikachu
who is a little meaner, more than the super happy Pikachu all the time. I don't know. I think it shows a little bit more range of personality, even though that's not to hark on anime Pikachu, who started off as mean, but it's kind of the same thing. After Ash had a selfless act to save Pikachu, then Pikachu started to be that Pokemon who wanted to help, wanted to be a friend and actually assist. And rarely did we ever from there, to my knowledge, get any moments where Pikachu was a jerk. And at the end of this chapter, we get a teaser of Misty and Staryu just absolutely demolished by a Gyarados. Chapter 6, Gyarados splashes in. Staryu takes a hit to save Misty from the Hydro Pump that was on its way at the end of the last chapter, and Red then appears and sends out Bulbasaur. Misty's like, no, don't do it! That's a Hydro Pump, it's gonna knock him out! And Red's like, you think so? As we watch Bulbasaur, like a little bird in a splash fountain, just shaking itself, enjoying the water. Red's like, yeah, a little bit of water ain't gonna do anything to a plant. Don't worry. We get a resulting attack from Bulbasaur, wrapping Gyarados in a Leech Seed, giving enough time for Misty to tell Staryu, hey, now's your chance. You need to use Recover. And Staryu comes back for them to then work together and actually beat the Gyarados and for Red to catch it. Misty reveals that this is her Gyarados, in fact, and at some point it had been stolen away. She had been tailing it since she had found it again, but something was wrong. It was enraged, it was angry, it was violent, and this is not her Gyarados. It's not been the same since she's found it again, and that's why she was trying to catch it now. She was trying to get it so that she could return it back to normal. The two of them call Professor Oak, who then says Team Rocket is actually experimenting on Pokemon in labs in a multitude of different ways, and that they were the ones likely behind this. Oak states that they should probably prepare themselves, and there's rumor of a Moonstone that can actually boost the power of Pokemon. So you should probably just go get that. Go to Mount Moon, go get that, prepare yourselves. Misty decides that she wants to join along, and she shows that she has 6 Pokeballs, 3 of them showing Staryu, Gyarados, and then Starmie. Chapter 7, Raging Rhydon. Team Rocket is already there. They're scouring the mountain, and they're communicating with each other via walkie-talkies and go, yeah, if any intruders come in here, you are to meet them with extreme force. Already setting up the stakes. Now, it is a dark cave. They can't see anything, and Red goes, all right, I got an answer for this. Sends out Pikachu. I wasn't ready for a Disney reference here, but Disney is kind of big also, so how could it not be referenced in other forms of media? It's referenced in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet even. Pride Rock is literally in the Blueberry Academy. Go check it out. A Pyroar will walk up to the edge, completely ignore you. It won't roar, but it's really cool. It was brought to my attention during a stream. Back to Pokemon, though, and our cave, as Pikachu lights up the cave with Flash, and eventually our lovely crew here runs into Team Rocket and their leader, which looks a little familiar, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later as they reveal they have a Rhyhorn. Now, they fight, Pikachu wins, and the leader's like, haha, you thought that's all we had? Pulls out a needle, injects it into Rhyhorn. I don't know how strong that needle is to go through rock, skin, body, carapace like that, but the freakiest little thing happens, and probably the only time we, at least in the 3 volumes, I'll even say now, that we get a nasty little evolution, because it instantly transforms and evolves this Rhyhorn into a Rhydon, and the horn turns into the full drill, and you can see that it looks like it just rips the stone skin of this Pokemon, and you see its body expand as it stands up. And any other evolution in this, every other natural evolution that occurs in this, does not look like this. So this has got to be abnormal. Obviously, yes, you're probably sitting like, oh yeah, no duh, Acrylic, and you literally watched somebody stick a hypodermic needle into a Pokemon to force it to evolve. But what if evolutions were painful? You know what I mean? What if they were more lycanthropy, more werewolf-y, where you kind of get to see the body more? That's terrifying. That would make me never want to evolve my Pokemon. So I had to think about that a little bit. Now, Misty Staryu tries to attack, but another fun thing we see in this is just because you're using a super effective attack doesn't mean that the opposing Pokemon isn't strong enough to resist it in just brute force and turn it back on you. As the Horn Drill, well, spins like a drill and reverses the attack back at Misty and Staryu, knocking them out. Red goes, all right, nope, we're done. We're not doing this. This is a bad situation. Pikachu, you know what to do. Blast the ceiling. Boulders drop. And while it hurts and distracts Team Rocket and their Pokemon, Red picks up Misty, is like, go, 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 runs. And the leader's disguise drops. As we get to see, if you know Pokemon, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you know all the gym leaders, you'll recognize Koga. Koga, part of the Team Rocket, the poison type gym leader. This is where I started to get really excited about it all, because we are vastly separating from what is typical of the stories that we've grown up with. Misty wakes up, is like, you should have prioritized the Moonstone. Why did you just try to save me? They're just gonna come after us. They're gonna get the Moonstone, and we've lost everything then. And Red goes, you should have let me finish. Not only did I save you, I got the Moonstone. Chapter 8, Suddenly Star Me. Misty takes Red to her home, and it's fully gated. You know, it's not a gated community. Misty is absolutely loaded. Maids, mansion, personal Poke Center to heal their Pokemon. And Misty goes, yeah, we need to start training. This is bad. They defeated me. You had to run. We barely made it out of there. That was not a draw. That was defeat. And Red's like, I don't need to. You missed it. You were knocked out. I had it lock and key. If I didn't have to save you, I could have beat them. Don't worry about it. Of course, this frustrates Misty, but we kind of cut to Red being in his room, and he's like, man, who could just ever train when there's so many beautiful maids out there for me to ask out on a date? Windows burst open. Just a bunch of just what looks like wind and water shoots into the room, swirls and blasting, only for Bulbasaur to save Red. And then we see that a Gyarados scale is left behind. Red and Misty talk. Red is all about, yeah, I need to go challenge a gym leader here. Misty goes, oh, sure, I'll take you right to them. You know them? Yeah, I know them pretty personally. And we know Misty's the gym leader. And she leads him into the gym, into a room, and it's like, where's the gym leader? You're looking at her. You're not the gym leader! And she immediately attacks him, like, oh dear, ah! And she's like, pull out your Pokemon. I am the gym leader. She continues to attack and attack until eventually she tells Red, I was the one that attacked you in your room last night. You are not ready to take these people on. So, are you just going to stand there and let me attack you, or are you going to fight back? And despite how hard Red tried to fight, Red loses. The Starmie defeats Bulbasaur, and Misty kind of breaks down a little bit. I'm afraid. I'm strong, and I clobbered you, but they're stronger than me. We need to train. We need more. This isn't enough. What if I can't protect my Pokemon? What if I can't protect my home, the people that I love? Then what? And Red agrees. He puts his pride aside and goes, all right, let's train. We cut to a couple of days later, and Misty is comfortable stating, you did good. Let's part ways. I can trust you to survive on your own. Best of luck. At the end of this chapter, we get a teaser of Bill and his little transporter machines as he ends up falling into it with a Rattata on the other side. Chapter 9 is a joke on nothing to fear but fear itself, with the title, But Fearow Itself. Red exclaims how he has too many Pokeballs to carry, but he's caught all these Pokemon and he doesn't want to just leave any behind. And then he walks across and sees a strange Rattata, which I will now name Bill-Tata, as it is the fused form of Bill and Rattata, just like we see in the games when he fuses with Clefairy, for example. Now, Bill does talk with a very southern accent, full on, hold on. Heck, if I was human, I could pick the old stick up just like it was a stick. A stick. Who'd have thunk it would be so hard just to light a fire? Like, I mean, it's even written as though you have no choice but to read it in some sort of accent. It's obvious. This scares Red, and Bill-Tata's like, oh, don't worry about it. I am supposed to be an amazing inventor. This is how I ended up like, and then he, mid-sentence, gets caught by a Fearow. Like any other comedy where something gets grabbed by a flying animal hunting it, Bill-Tata is taken by this Fearow, and he is screaming for help. He's going, hey, you should probably help me. That'd be great. Bulbasaur tries to attack, does nothing. Bill-Tata going, oh, why are you using a grass type on a flying type? That's not gonna do no good. Why don't you use, I don't know, something like electricity, something like ice? And Red throws up Poliwhirl, throws up Pikachu, blasts the Fearow, and actually misses and hits Bill-Tata. What you hitting me for? Are you trying to cook me? Trying to toast me? Hit the bird! The problem with this, though, is that the Fearow is getting further and further and further away, making it very difficult to actually lock on and hit this bird. So, Red goes, if we can't hit it from below, why not go from above? And has Pikachu full-on lightning bolt from the sky down onto the Fearow, much to Bill-Tata's fear. Bill-Tata is saved, the Fearow is on the ground, and not out for the count just yet. As the Fearow gets up, flies, turns around, and Bill-Tata yells, it's going for Horn Drill, watch out! And it pierces into Poliwhirl. You get that sound like a deflating balloon. And then we see Fearow freeze from front to back completely as Poliwhirl used Substitute, followed up with a nice little ice attack. We don't actually get to see the ice attack, and the Fearow is actually down for the count. Bill-Tata questions, so you planned this from the start? Maybe. It helped to know what attack was coming, so thank you for that. They catch the Fearow. Bill is put back into his transporter. He's separated from the Rattata, and Red is given the offer of, leave your Pokemon with me. They'll be perfectly fine here. This is my transfer machine. I'm trying to make it a proper working tool that'll be good for trainers like, well, you. Red agrees, takes him up on his offer, hands him a Pokeball. Here you go. Bill looks and sees the Fearow in the ball, freaks out, little comedy moment, and Red departs, sitting in a field with his Pokemon, and he just, look at that water. That's not a pond, that's the ocean. I hope you guys enjoy that. Just actually allowing his Pokemon to rest outside the ball. And while they're looking out, they see the SSN. Chapter 10, Danger, High Voltorb. Red, seeing some strange commotion going on, wanting to know what's in the crates going onto the ship, stowaways onto it. And while sneaking around, because clearly he never learned his lesson from Oak's lab, he looks through a door and sees a strange, shadowy shape before he gets caught, claimed as a stowaway, and thrown off of the ship. But he knows that he had to have seen a Pokemon. Why are they carrying Pokemon as cargo? He runs into an unknown man who we will later learn to be the director of the Pokemon fan club, as he takes Red in, introduces him to the entire club, and gives him a paper that says, "That's the last time I take a bath with my Tentacool," as Red's just, why a Tentacool? Why? Now, the fan club does disapprove of Red battling with his Pokemon, especially allowing them to evolve. No! No! How dare you? They're supposed to stay cute and cuddly forever. They're supposed to be small and adorable. You want them to be carried in your arms. How dare you battle them? They don't make it that dramatic. I'm, of course, adding a little bit more to it, but, you know, that's the strong feelings that they do have deep inside of, yeah, no, we don't battle our Pokemon. We do prefer them to stay cute and cuddly for all of their lives. A guy bursts in and starts yelling about how his Executor was stolen, my sweet baby Pokemon, and the room kind of goes glum, real depressed, as it's revealed the director's Abra was even stolen last month, and how these kidnappings keep happening every month at the same time. In fact, it happens today, the same day that the SS Anne is cargoing up and setting out. Red learns that the ship is going to be setting out to Cinnabar Island and is ran by Lieutenant Surge, leader of the Electric-type gym. As Red sets out, the director goes, "Can you please leave your Pikachu behind so I have something to cuddle? I would love something soft and cute to cuddle right now. That'd be great." And he actually does leave Pikachu behind. He sneaks onto the ship, only to see a Pokeball on the ground. He's like, okay, well, what's this all about? He reaches out, and it turns out to be a Voltorb. Acting quick, Poliwhirl blasts the Voltorb away with water, but since the water comes from Poliwhirl, the electric current travels through the watery blast to Poliwhirl and knocks it out. All for Lieutenant Surge to make his entry. Chapter 11, Buzz Off Electabuzz. Lieutenant Surge flat out says some heinous stuff. We're freeing those poor, pampered, coddled, under-evolved, over-domesticated Pokemon. And if we make a little profit on this side, that just helps us do our good work, doesn't it? Poliwhirl is slowly getting up, and because Lieutenant Surge can sense a fight ahead of him, he says, "Alright, fine. If you really think you can take us all with one Pokemon, let's just make this real easy. This one is a mead one. We can't even get it in a Pokeball, but it makes for a perfect guard dog, as we see an Electabuzz chained up. Like, it has arm cuffs and everything set out to fight. It unleashes a Thunder Punch that they're able to just barely escape as Red once again tackles his own Pokemon to get it out of the way of danger, and the Thunder Punch just completely wrecked the floor of this ship. And in order to get away, because they're cornered, he's just backing up. The Electabuzz is getting closer. Poliwhirl takes a finger, boop, puts it to the ground, and we watch a trail of ice go across the ground and up the legs of Electabuzz and Lieutenant Surge, freezing them in place so that way the two of them can get away. And Red looks at Poliwhirl and is like, "Good job, buddy." Just like what we used to do with those bullies all the time. And that hits me in a weird spot. Like, I'm somebody who, I was bullied quite a bit as a kid. It is a thing, right? It happens. And as an adult, of course, through comments on YouTube, there's some heinous stuff. You get some people who are real mean, and I can laugh it off now. But seeing another person whenever they're in a bullied situation or anything along those lines, and they have adapted to it, have brought about a strength from it, and are able to counteract any sort of adversity from other people who are just want to be cruel and mean, I love it. I love seeing that. And it's not like we're going to go into a huge backstory of Red was bullied, but no, it's just a quick, simple, just like when, you know, those bullies would come after us. Just like old times. And that tells us very easily how long Poliwhirl has been with Red. We'll learn a little bit more later, but that is some, very basic but really good storytelling in just one sentence. Red is sneaking around with Poliwhirl, moving around, trying to dodge the Magnemite that are now on patrol. But as Red climbs up a ladder, this is Lieutenant Surge's ship. He's got eyes everywhere through the power of technology. Fantastic. So it isn't long before a Magneton comes in, shocks the two of them, separates them, and Lieutenant Surge walks on over, calm, cool, collected. Red is put into an electric prison that is stronger than steel, and Lieutenant Surge grabs Poliwhirl by the arm and tosses him overboard. Red is just like telling Surge, you can't get away. There's no way this is just gonna happen. Surge goes, what are you gonna do? You're in this prison. Let's give you a taste of your own medicine. Shocks Red, full bar, no hesitation. Surge is evil. There's no, oh, I'm being forced to do this. No, he is actively torturing a child. This is dark. This is so very different than what I grew up with Pokemon. This is the, oh no, there are consequences. These are real Pokemon moves. These are real dangers in reality, and there are some very bad people. The risks are high, and they stay high as the Magnemite forming the prison of electricity around Red carry him over the water, boom, and drop him. We get a small flashback. Red sinking into the water as he tells himself, this is just like before. I've been here before. I can't move. I can't swim. I can't breathe. But last time was when Polly was just a Poliwag. And it wasn't strong enough to save me then. But it evolved. And it saved me. It evolved into a Poliwhirl and pulled me out of the water. We come back to the present time. And we see Red getting carried away as a Poliwrath is revealed. His Poliwhirl having evolved. And without the use of a Water Stone for that matter, I don't mind that. I'm not against that. It is stated that these Pokemon can exist in the wild, so maybe there's the chance that they don't always need these stones. They just need pressure and energy, something that can be accelerated through the use of stones, but isn't necessary. Surge, being cocky, goes, what is that supposed to do? Blast it. And Poliwrath smacks away the electricity. That is not me exaggerating. The electricity zips towards Poliwrath, and he just backhands it like, I am stronger than any form of energy that you have. Allow me to crush your Magnemite. Bunk! In reality, though, he actually seismic tosses the Electabuzz at Lieutenant Surge, causing them both to go overboard. And as the event ends, neither of them are found, but all the other crew mates are apprehended, all the Pokemon are recovered, and we end on a lighthearted note as the director is told, yeah, about your Abra, and a full-on Alakazam is revealed. The director faints, knowing that his cute little Abra is not here anymore and is instead a full Alakazam. And we end with a teaser of the Miracle Cycle sponsored race. Chapter 12, Wake Up Your Snorlax. As our competitors in the race, including Red, take off, they zoom way ahead of Red, who exclaims how, yeah, I should not have borrowed this bike from the fan club. This bike sucks. Like, it is terrible. But as he gets closer to the bridge, he notices all these people are stopped for some reason and asks, why, what's going on here? He looks over the edge as, while one person can go across the bridge one at a time, or they're being very careful with it, for good reason, because the water below is filled with Tentacruel. The, creatures that, if there's a swarm of them, they, with their 80 tentacles each, will grab every single Pokemon or thing that gets near them and can wipe out an entire population of fish, that Pokemon, in a race. And one of the guys goes, oh yeah, no, this is a Pokemon obstacle course, so you can use your Pokemon all you want. Red, being our ingenuity genius of I'm gonna do things on the fly and ad-lib life to the fullest, throws out the Poliwrath, Ice Beam Bridge, keeps going, decides, oh, while everyone else is taking not taking the shortcut and going around the forest, I'm gonna go through. A bug catcher looks at him and says, don't do that. That shortcut is gonna become a long cut, because if you go through there without a repel, you don't understand the sheer number of bug Pokemon there. Red says, bet, starts going through and says, this is a lot easier when you have something to zap these bugs with. And to clear a path, Bulbasaur is just blasting through with Razor Leaf to destroy any of the foliage along the way. Pikachu is still blasting everything, and he's going, he's cycling, he's zooming, he's happy, until Bulbasaur cuts the wrong branch and a Beedrill hive falls on Bulbasaur, covering him in a little bit of honey, but also enraging the Beedrill. They do make it out the other side with a couple more bumps on the face and body, but they're alive, they're fine. And even though they're well ahead of the rest of the cyclers, they are in third place. That is, until they make it to the next bridge and find that the first and second place bicyclists are actually stopped. Because there's a Snorlax on our bridge, and I'm so happy. The manga does such a fantastic job of taking us through route by route in such a new way. And it's beautiful. It brings such a new life that I had not seen before. And it just makes me feel like a kid all over again, rediscovering all these moments, especially like running into Snorlax for the first time. This bump in the road that stops you from getting further in your journey, and you have to overcome it. Red learns the only way that you're gonna wake a Snorlax is with food, holds Bulbasaur up and goes, here's a tasty treat, and books it. Snorlax gets up and he books it, and the people watching the race, the announcers go, oh dear God, what is that? That's a Pokemon we've never seen before, as Snorlax is depicted as a mountain. Like, Snorlax is big. But Snorlax in the games, even in its statistics, doesn't seem to be all that large. Or even in the anime, sometimes doesn't seem to be all that large. No, this is a very rotund Snorlax. Massive gordita monster that it is. And I'm in love with seeing the size difference in Pokemon like that, as Red is but like a tiny little blip compared to the massive mountain that Snorlax is, and Snorlax is running full speed. Massive mountain pancake energy going on here. But Red makes it, crosses that line, gains a ridiculous amount of money out of it all, and some items, but I think it was like the equivalent of $1,000. He ended up having to spend all of it to feed the Snorlax. For good reason, too. If that Snorlax wasn't fed, it probably was going to go on a massive rampage, and Red did trick the Snorlax, so Red probably felt at least a little bit bad for what he had done, and makes sense why he would spend all that money. Chapter 13, Sigh for Psyduck. Beginning in Lavender Town, we meet with an old man paying respects to his passed away Doduo, who had actually died of old age. Red, being told this, bows, puts his hands together, and pays respects as well immediately, which results in the old man inviting him to come visit his home for a nice warm drink out of the fact that Red was compassionate for his situation. And it turns out that this man is Mr. Fuji, which actually separates Mr. Fuji that we know in the games from the Mr. Fuji that is in the manga. Because otherwise Mr. Fuji would be the person who ran the Pokemon fan club. So we get a little bit of like lore separation going on here because, well, I'll talk about it later, I guess, when it comes to Fuji and Blaine, if you don't already know. Mr. Fuji tells us all about Lavender Town and why the people here are so weird. It's all simply because, and also why his Doduo isn't actually buried there in the tower where everybody buries their Pokemon and pays respects to their Pokemon, is actually because there are ghosts all around. But Mr. Fuji does reinforce it. He's like, no, there are ghosts that are going there and people are disappearing. Mr. Fuji also ends up showing a picture of him and his Doduo, and little do you know, Blue is in the picture. Red goes, what, how long ago was this? Where's Blue? He's been ahead of me this whole time. And Mr. Fuji says, oh, yeah, he also laughed at the whole ghost thing and decided that he was going to prove me wrong and ran headfirst into the tower. How long ago was that? Oh, it's been like 2 or 3 weeks. What? Yeah, and it was soon after he left at, like, you know, my Doduo passed away of old age. Kind of weird. But, you know, he hasn't returned, now that I think about it. I wonder if he just left. I don't really know. Red decides to follow onto the trail, and entering the tower, we see a Psyduck, a Slowbro, Lickitung, Tangela, and then everything goes skeletal. This is full-on Pokemon horror. There are corpses in these manga shots. Like, there's corpses and skeletons. Not just, oh, there's ghosts here and there. No, this is body horror. This is some Night of the Living Dead Pokemon going on here. And Red does say that something has to be controlling these corpses. And maybe it has to do with the strange fog, because none of these Pokemon, undead Pokemon, are leaving it. Now, the purple haze continues throughout the area, and we end up seeing Blue and Charmeleon, although they are clearly very possessed. Chapter 14 is the finale of Volume 1 with That Awful Arbok. Red realizes there is only one Pokemon that is made of gas and has psychic abilities that could do this, and it has to be Ghastly. My boy! Bulbasaur attacks, and the leaves just end up going right through Ghastly because it's made of gas, which these stories add more to the Pokemon than their typings. The idea that a Pokemon can be made of gas and also be completely resistant to actual physical attacks is really cool. You can't do that in the Pokemon games because there has to be some level of balance. But when it comes to a story, you can do this all you want. And I love that they take these creative liberties to give the ghost Pokemon less tangibility. It's amazing. So instead, with it being a gas, Red, it's like, oh, sure, fine. You know what plants do? It's gonna absorb gases. And Bulbasaur just starts the air, the gas, like just pulling it as much as it can through its bulb until eventually Ghastly is sucked in. You hear blorp as Red told Bulbasaur to continue until he heard a blorp. And it's not 100% clear, but I interpreted the following shot as Bulbasaur burped, it blasted a hole in the wall, and Ghastly exploded in the daylight outside, considering the Pokemon does not like daylight. Blue, coming to his senses now, alongside his Charmeleon, states how dare that buffoon cast a spell on me the way that he did. And he's pretty much completely ignoring Red and his presence, and Red is getting irritated. He's like, hey, I saved you. Can I at least get a thank you? If it weren't for me, you'd still be, you know, trapped like that. Blue tells him, you need to go. You need to leave. You are not strong enough to deal with what's here. And it's exemplified in a split second what he's trying to say as a massive sludge wave appears and Blue has to save Red because they were just not paying attention. We then hear the voice as it states, if you had just decided to stay a zombie, you wouldn't have to die right now. Very clearly states, you will die. I don't think even a Pokemon game directly states anything like that until we started getting into Pokemon X and Y, or Sun and Moon, with how brutal some of the descriptions of Pokemon are, let alone what Lysander was trying to do. Oh my god, I get to read about Lysander. I actually hope he's like a... Lysander deserves so much more than what the games give him, and I've seen a little bit of snippets of what the anime does. We're not going to continue on that route, but still, there's amazing, beautiful stuff, and I probably sound like a broken record, but you know, what am I going to do? Be a negative individual, say this all sucks like 90% of YouTubers do, say how much they hate things, and oh, what's the worst chapter in Pokemon? No, I need to be Mr. Positive because, I don't know, I like it. It makes me feel good. Arbok is shown as it completely melts a wall with acid, and our duo tries to run away, buying themselves time with Charmeleon throwing up a little bit of a reflect. Outside of the building, we see Koga watching this scene as he is held up in the air by a Golbat, saying how the acid will break through anything and that reflect isn't going to save you here and now. And as he's watching this scene through some sort of device, we watch Charmeleon's like upper body get melted off. Then it cuts to the actual inside of the building scene, and we get revealed to us that Charmeleon took one of the dead Psyduck, held it up, and was hiding behind it as it melted, as the acid from Arbok melted the upper body, and Charmeleon comes out and just whack! Slices Arbok in two. We get to see that inner vertebra even, and I do believe that at least Arbok's entry does state that as long as its actual head, like, isn't cut off, it can regrow its body. We don't get to see this Arbok regrow its body. I just know that little bit of information. Though, that is the height of the action as Koga swears his vengeance and flies off. Now, we do get at the end of the volume a nice little summary, and I'll just quickly go over that as we get the journey and the routes that Red has gone through, the fact that he has 2 badges, both Brock's and Misty's, he has found 56 Pokemon, caught 26, and it even shows the trio of Pokemon that he has, says that they are his favorites, and gives stats on them, which is a nice little touch. Volume 2 starts with Chapter 15, War Turtle Wars. We see a new character, which, if you know, again, characters in the games and everything, you would know that this is Green, who's actually spying on Red. We immediately cut to Red, who is talking to Bulbasaur and is noting something is really weird going on until Bulbasaur evolves into Ivysaur. Wasn't even mid-battle or anything like that, just kind of, boop, evolves. Green suckers Red into buying some items, even flirting with him a bunch, being like, oh, these are such great items, and like, just really, really laying it on. Until he eventually gives in, spends like 6K, and as he's walking away with Ivysaur, talking to Ivysaur going, I think she really likes me. I could just feel it. As if he wasn't just absolutely played. As Red calls Professor Oak and shows him, hey, Bulbasaur evolved into Ivysaur, Oak praises him and says how that's great. That means that there's only one left of the trio that has yet to reach its next form, though guess I don't really know when it'll reach its next form since, you know, Squirtle might have been stolen. What? Yeah, turns out that somebody actually did break into the lab after Red and stole the Squirtle. And now all 3 starters are out in the world. One with Red, one with Blue, and then, of course, one with Green, as it is directly revealed during a moment where Red finds Green again and books it, starts running, makes it to the water, and releases War Turtle to get away. Red whips his Pokeball through the air and releases a Pokemon that he claims is a very low level but should still get the job done, as Snorlax is released and blocks the entire way of escape. And not only that, but decides that ain't good enough, Mega Punch, and slams that fist down onto Green and the ground, causing it to completely collapse. Like, there is no need for that level of powerful violence. It's such a big Pokemon. I feel like against any human being, if Snorlax were to flick them, they would explode because of the sheer size difference and power held within that fat, absolute unit of a lad. Red takes his money back. Green is, to his knowledge, knocked out, when in reality, Red, as he had walked away, said, "You shouldn't mess with somebody who has 2 gym badges." And so Green actually ends up snagging those 2 gym badges from Red without him even knowing. And that chapter ends with a shot of Team Rocket doing everything they can to set up their information and hunt down Green for an unknown reason. Chapter 16, Tauros the Tyrant. Red knocks out a Team Rocket member and immediately swaps clothes with them as he notices them grouping together and running off in a direction, knowing that they're bad and he wants information on everything that's going on. He ends up getting assigned to the C unit, and we get to see a half-baked Mewtwo. Like, only slightly being over-dramatic here, as half of its body is literally not formed. It's broken apart. It's I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it other than to say that it's as though it were a horror movie. A creature that is not fully put together, asleep in the chamber that we all know Mewtwo was in before it broke out, but it's half. And it's not a cartoony, oh, it's cut in half. No, it's broken and misshapen in that half. It's like something was ripping it apart piece by piece. It actually, hold on, it kind of reminds me of when you see somebody get like pixelated when they are being transferred from the real world into like a virtual world, being created from a Mew cell that is being cultured. That singular cell actually lacks the genes to create a complete Mewtwo body, and we get to see that stated by Blaine, the fire-type gym leader of Cinnabar Island, another gym leader who is confirmed to have swapped sides and has joined Team Rocket. And it turns out the reason that Team Rocket is a singular organization. Either way, the reason Team Rocket is going after Green is because she stole like a floppy disk. If you don't know what that is, because you're under the age of 16 watching this video, which this video is not made for kids, YouTube. I don't swear, but that's because I want to be family friendly. A floppy disk, think of a thumb drive, an SD card. But instead of it being able to hold 32 gigabytes of information in this tiny little thing, a floppy disk maybe held 10 megabytes if you were lucky in like a full disc sized, like a DVD player disc sized square of information. There's your floppy disk. I interacted with them, but I never really had to use them. They were in the house. So they need that floppy disk to figure out where Mew is, to find information on Mew, how to track it down, everything that they need to get this mythical Pokemon back so we can get more cells and finish making Mewtwo. They surround Green, having found her, and she states, "No, I want Mew for myself. I'm not going to just hand this over to you." So she sends out Wartortle, who is able to dodge a Machamp and Hitmonlee in a way that causes them to ram into each other, and she's happy. She's like, I don't have to worry about anything here. Until Team Rocket looks at her, says, "We have a Tauros here. Here it goes." This is not just any Tauros, though. This was the king of this Safari Zone. With its tails and its abilities, it was actually able to control other Pokemon. So watch this. As the Tauros whips its tails, and all of the Pokemon that are under Team Rocket's control are now under Tauros' control, meaning that they are in perfect sync and are able to absolutely mob Wartortle without hitting each other. Wartortle is knocked out, and Green says, alright, I have one other option, and throws out what nobody else knows, but we know, is a Ditto. Red saves Green as the Tauros was about to just completely stab into her and run her off the cliff. Instead, the Tauros, missing, flies off the cliff instead. Nobody notices this because Ditto has already transformed into that Tauros. So everyone thought that Tauros didn't fly off and instead, I don't know, turned around really fast, or the Ditto, or whatever the Pokemon that they don't know what it is, got squished. And everybody is unawares except for Green, as the Tauros, that is a Ditto of Green's, flicks its tails, controls Team Rocket's Pokemon, and sends them all after their Team Rocket trainers. Now Green is calling Red the one that can't resist her, and so she's like, yeah, you have a defector because nobody can resist this, and rips off Red's disguise clothing of Team Rocket to reveal Red underneath as the one in disguise, and throws out a Jigglypuff who inflates like a massive balloon, grabs its foot, grabs Red, and they escape. And it seems as though Team Rocket is satisfied because they think they have the disc containing information on Mew. Chapter 17, The Jinx. Green and Red leave to find Mew now that they have the floppy disk in their hands, and it isn't long before Team Rocket themselves finds out that they've actually been tricked. Until they get distracted and tricked again because Green left Ditto behind to transform into Mew, go out to the Rocket facilities, and appear on their cameras to lead them on a wild goose chase. Green reveals that she is not just a charlatan trying to trick people into buying completely useless gadgets all the time, and that she can actually use gadgets that are legitimately, well, technologically advanced, I guess, because she puts on these head scopes that allows her to see when psychic Pokemon emit special brainwave patterns as they use psychokinesis, which is incredibly unique to their signature. Meaning, as long as she has these on, if she detects any Pokemon psychic energy, then she will be able to find it. And it won't be a red herring, false radar, false positive, whatever it is. Red tries to tell her about, the monster that Team Rocket is creating in their basement, but she's just not paying attention. She's scoping out the area, hyper-focusing on trying to find Mew, as she just responds with, uh-huh. Red questions why she even wants to find Mew in the first place, because she's clearly not with Team Rocket. She's kind of against Red to some degree, so why do you want Mew? After all, there are only 150 Pokemon, so what's happening here? And she immediately jumps into excitement as she says, you're wrong. You need to understand that there are actually 151 Pokemon. Mew is the Phantom Pokemon, the one that nobody knows about, the mystical being that has evaded everyone this whole time. And because of it being such a rare Pokemon, I can get a lot of money off of this. I could just, if I catch Mew, do you understand how much money Pokemon breeders are willing to pay in order to get this unique Pokemon? It would be beautiful. I would be filthy rich. And we gotta see that Green has green on the mind. Now they do find Mew and they strike. It's incredibly fast, zipping and zooping all over the place until Red decides, all right, we're gonna trap it. We're gonna slow it down as they use Hydro Pump and then Vine Whip. The Hydro Pump lowering the number of areas that Mew can go between as it's sticking in the area for some reason or another, allowing it to be more predictable in its patterns, while the Vine Whip is intended to grab it and prevent it from moving so much so that way they can weaken it through attacks and then catch Mew. The problem with this, though, is the second that they do catch Mew, a massive cold burst gale comes through. They look up the mountain, and they seem Team Rocket and a Jinx with them. Now, to us, we might not think twice about Jinx. Jinx is supposed to be a powerful, rarer Pokemon to some degree, and even in other games, let's say like Pokemon Snap, there are Jinx surrounding the egg of Articuno. So there's a lot more lore to Jinx than there seems to be on the surface, and they're kind of representative of Vikings, so they might be an ancient Pokemon species. Team Rocket exclaims that we'll have the power to destroy anyone and anything in our path once Mewtwo is complete. Though, we also get to see Poliwrath absolutely bodied by Jinx. Jinx, in turn, is bodied by Mew, who releases a big old burst of energy that coalesces across the ground even, and actually hits members of Team Rocket, freezing, and it didn't look like it was ice, like solidifying them, almost like a Gorgon's, like a Medusa's gaze, turning them to stone for a moment. Team Rocket and Jinx. Mew stares at our protagonist, then disappears. Green gets a little upset about it all, but smiles at the end of it because she has pictures of Mew, proof of it existing, and will be more than happy to sell him for a nice big lump of cash. This chapter ends with Blue carrying a big ol' stack of coins in the game corner and trading them in. The person taking the receptionist tells Blue, "Are you sure you want to do this? The Pokemon here are way more difficult to train. They're not like the ones that you can catch in the wild." Chapter 18, A Tale of Nine Tails. Porygon blasts by, just zoom, and knocks into Red, who drops his Pokeballs, and Blue is already there, stumbling over himself, dropping his Pokeballs as well. And Blue is upset. He's angry even. Just, why? I knew that they said that this would be difficult. I knew that they said that this Pokemon would not be the same, but I did not think that it would be this absolutely ridiculous. So we get revealed that he traded his coins in for a Porygon. They gather up their Pokeballs, go about separate ways, and as Red is walking around, he notices two people who are in need of help, as there's a big old nasty Pokemon coming on through. He sends out his Pokemon, and it actually turns out that there might have been a little Pokeball swap between Red and Blue, as he has all of Blue's Pokemon. And they think he's Blue because they're like, oh, a boy who travels around with a Charmeleon and all these other Pokemon, you have to be Blue. Which, of course, Red isn't. He takes it up. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Tries to save them. Charmeleon doesn't listen, and they get stomped. Literally. Despite not listening to Red, Blue's Pokemon start to train on their own, and we see just how self-sufficient and disciplined Blue's Pokemon really, really are. Meanwhile, Red, seeing this, says, hey, we can train by having fun. Let's go swimming. And all of Blue's Pokemon are completely confused. They're staring at him like he's crazy. And we cut to Blue, who actually starts putting Red's Pokemon through a difficult regimen, saying how, well, I might as well train them up while I have them, because he's clearly not doing it right. By the end of the day, Red has caught a Krabby and Diglett, and Blue's Pokemon are slowly becoming friendlier. They're not really taking food from him at night when it comes to the campfire time, but he says at least they don't bite me anymore. He sees a bright light in the distance, actually two bright lights, as it is revealed that a Ninetales is being attacked by his own Pikachu. He runs right up and tries to assist with this situation. Meanwhile, during the fight itself, Blue has actually already taught Pikachu some new non-electric tricks, even though he's an electric type Pokemon. He's like, yeah, just because you're an electric type doesn't mean you have to stick to electric moves. You need diversity. And we get a nice little tail strike on the Ninetales to bring in that diversity, a close range combat. The Ninetales runs towards Red, trying to escape, and he sends out a Machoke, who immediately, trying to protect and also take down this Pokemon, this Ninetales, puts it into a grapple. The problem with this is, one, you don't touch the tails of a Ninetales, 2, that's a lot of fire curling around Machoke. So, Red and Blue start arguing. Blue's like, are you trying to kill my Pokemon? You need to recall it now. That fire is going to burn it alive. Though, in the middle of the grapple, due to the pressure being put onto Machoke, it evolves into Machamp, which is also really fun because, you know, the whole idea of, oh, hey, you have to trade a Machoke in order to get a Machamp. I do enjoy the idea that it didn't immediately happen for the evolution, but Machamp fully pins down the Ninetales. Blue is able to catch the Ninetales. They argue back and forth. Oh, I'm the one that took it down. Oh, but it's my Machamp, so I'm gonna get it. Sucks to suck, Red. As they separate, Blue does call the Machamp evolution a coincidence after saying how Red is so lazy about having trained Blue's Pokemon in the time separated, but something feels different. And you can kind of see that they look happier. And if you look at the panels, especially when we look at Red's Pokemon, once they're returned to him, we see the eyes of Blue on all of Red's Pokemon. And something that is expressed in Pokemon in general is how Pokemon begin to visually, physically adapt unknowingly to look like their trainer, the ones that they're close to. This isn't uncommon at all. This is actually something that happens in real life. Oddly enough, you'll find that some animals do represent their partners in a weird way. I don't know how to explain it or the science behind it. Red's Pokemon are now able to actually keep up with him during bicycle cardio training, which does scare him away. And then a Tangela crashes into him and it runs away, ending the chapter. Chapter 19, Blame It on Eevee. As Red marches after Tangela, he gets stopped as all of the people surrounding that he pushed his way through tell him Lady Erica is in there. And he goes, I don't care if it's a princess. I demand an apology after the way that Tangela made me crash like that. And of course, there's a big uproar. Everyone's like, how dare you talk about Lady Erica that way? Because they're a bunch of simps. And she opens the door and goes, no. Apologize. Like, she, you know, it is our fault. It is my fault, you know. And everyone bows, and they're like, daughter of the richest family in all of Celadon City, or at least the gym leader of Celadon City, because, again, they're hyper-worshipping her. And she says, hey, sorry about Angela, my Tangela. Angela, my Tangela. I hope it's Angela, my Tangela, even though Angela is probably the actual name. There's the first actual nickname that we get. The rest of Red's Pokemon are Bulb, Polly, Pika. I'm fine with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually, when I was making my notes, started shorthanding a lot of names. Like, I wrote Red as just R, Green as just G, Team Rocket as TR, and the Pokemon just by the first 3 or 4 letters. So, Red challenges Erica to a battle after finding out that she's a gym leader, saying, oh yeah, all is forgiven, battle me. And, of course, the entire mob is ready to just throttle him until she goes, no, that's fine. We can have a Pokemon battle. But first, you're going to prove yourself by capturing a Pokemon of my choosing, and then you can fight me. He goes, all right, what Pokemon is it? I'll catch anything. I'm a great trainer. I don't know if you know about that. I've got this on lock and key. And she says, Eevee. Red struggles to find any information on this Eevee Pokemon, and the professor isn't available. He even calls Bill, shows him Eevee, and he goes, oh yeah, that's a rare critter right there. How about I send it over to my researchers and they can go ahead and try to figure out if they've seen it any time recently. Then they'll ping me and we'll just go to the location. And it takes a while. Now, we cut back to Erica. Someone's talking to her and saying how, are you sure you want to trust this Red kid to do this? If he finds out about what we're trying to do here and our project gets exposed, Erica turns around, quick as a whip, has her Vileplume shoot out a bunch of leaves at what I thought was going to be her shredding this person apart in a moment of power, because we've seen nothing. Sorry, no, we haven't seen nothing but evil gym leaders. I mean, we've had Brock and Misty, so half of the gym leaders we've run into have been evil. Those leaf blade shard leaves that went through the air, just like shurikens, stab into something invisible as a Drowsy is revealed and falls over. It's not moving. It is dead. It was spying on Erica, a psychic-type Pokemon, which is also against the grass-type gym leader. Seems a little weird, doesn't it? A little planned out, if you would. But back to Bill in Red, as one person saw an Eevee breathe fire. And how about I use this little doodad that detects Pokemon energies as they enter back into the city. Red starts getting Krabby ready, considering it breathed fire. Okay, we used the water type. And Eevee bounces right past, and Red's... It was right there! It was right there! And Bill's going, I didn't detect no fire energy. What you talking about? And Red gets ready, has the Krabby, prepared to strike, only for it to get zapped by a Jolteon. Then Red sends in Diglett, and then it turns into a Vaporeon. And then one more time, as Red sends out Ivysaur, and it turns into a Flareon. I thought, when I was originally reading it, I thought it was 3 different Pokemon. I thought it was the brothers from, the anime coming in, and we're going to find out this is someone else's Eevee, and that Erica really is evil, or they're going to tell us where to find an Eevee, blah, 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 right? No, it actually turns out the Eevee was straight up transforming into the different evolutions, which is sick. It's so cool until you find out what's happening next, because they're like, oh, it's twitching its ears right before it transforms every time. It is detecting what Pokemon is out and then transforming into the most appropriate typing to counter that Pokemon. So they wrap up the ears with Vine Whip, causing them to be covered so that way Eevee can't transform. They knock the Eevee out, and when they look into the ear, it turns out Eevee was experimented on. There's a little gadget in Eevee's ear that is turbocharging the Eevee. Red becomes irate. I'm gonna find that lady who sent me after this Eevee, because something tells me she knows more than she's letting on. And that's where Chapter 19 ends. Chapter 20, meanwhile, Vileplume. Red is angry. They're back at the gym, and they are calling out for Erica while holding Eevee very close, very protectively. Red, not finding Erica immediately, does put Eevee in a ball for its safety, and with Bill's assistance, they find a document called Eevee Reconstruction. And reading it out loud, if Eevee can be reconstructed so that it can transform rapidly between its 3 forms, then Erica walks in and finishes the sentence, it will serve as a very powerful weapon. Weaponizing Pokemon. Erica looks at Red and says, good job. You found the Eevee. You brought it to me. It's as simple as that. You know what? We could have a battle. Or just take this badge. You proved yourself to me. We don't need to have a battle. Just give me the Eevee. And Red says, I don't need your stinking badge. Is prepared to fight. As Erica says, okay, I'm prepared. Unless, of course, you're afraid. As they set up for a 3v3 match. Ivysaur is very quickly whipped away as it tries to grab onto the Tangela, who is just made of vines, and whips, again, our Ivysaur into the ether. Poliwrath slaps a Bellsprout a couple of times with Wake Up Slap, who, in turn, uses the move Mimic, learns the move from Poliwrath, and counters with Double Slap its own self, not Wake Up Slap, I apologize, in equal power, putting Poliwrath down for the count. Red sends in Pikachu, Vileplume goes, haha, funny, Swords Dance, Petal Dance, Vileplume go burr, and completely covers Pikachu as if it was a cocoon, putting Pikachu down as its health is incredibly low, which is shown on Red's gadget, which is actually pretty cool because it takes the place of, like, how the HP looked in the games. Erica points our attention towards the Eevee that's in a ball. The little Eevee is near its end. An experimental life is a sad one, The least I could do is put it out of its misery. If the Pokeball is opened now, it will surely take its last breath. Red screams, "I won't let you do this!" in a full anime moment, and yells out, "I choose you, Pikachu!" And Pikachu blasts out of the petal cocoon. It's all shiny and there's energy flowing around it. It doesn't seem completely tangible in this moment. Lands on the ground and starts running. And it gets past Erica. As it turns out, Pikachu actually used Substitute, transported, and got between Erica and the Eevee, ready to shock her. Because her Pokemon aren't going to get to her enough. That has to end here. There's nothing else that she can do. But instead of fighting, she smiles. She walks over, pats Pikachu on the head, and admires Pikachu for using the last of its HP to use the move Substitute and protect another Pokemon. She praises Pikachu, hits the machine, and fully restores Eevee. My apologies for testing you. Brock and Misty extolled your virtues, but one mustn't believe all that one hears. She releases Pikachu, and Erica reveals that the Eevee is from Team Rocket, as they in turn were trying to rescue the Eevee from the dastardly organization. And I don't know, this next part hit me. It's the growth of our character that I love to see. As Erica looks at Red and says, "We need an ethical trainer who possesses inner strength and compassion. A trainer like Red of Pallet Town." And that makes me smile. I'm a sucker for small moments like that. Small moments of recognition to our heroes who tried their hardest. And soft, tender moments. Erica has actually enlisted the citizens of Celadon City against Team Rocket. Red agrees to join in the battle alongside Erica and whatever plan is in place. And actually, a few days later, Red is sent away on the mission. Go do what you're gonna do. We'll call you when we need you, is what's assumedly what they discussed. And Erica sends Eevee with Red. Bill, worried, claims how, "Are you sure you want to have that, Eevee? Do you realize that it's gonna make you a target? The gym was attacked by a psychic Pokemon. Who do you think's behind it all and think what they'll do to little old you?" Red, of course, doesn't care. It's like, yeah, whatever. Doesn't pay attention to Bill in the slightest. And we zoom out to reveal Sabrina in the middle of the air, riding a Kadabra, floating, watching our little group here, smiling, saying, "Oh, we're putting the Eevee with him? That's gonna make this nice and easy." And she disappears. To round out this chapter, we jump to the Fuchsia Safari Zone. The sign is very Jurassic Parky, and with Red on a raft, we have Pidgeybot 1 and Pidgeybot 2, who will be his guide through the Safari Zone. Chapter 21, Long Live the Nidoking. I had to do it. It's a reference. It's a reference to Scar and Mufasa. How could I not? We see Parasect, Execute, even a Dragonair that flies overhead. A battle between two Nidoking. As always, they're battling over a Nidoqueen, is what the Pidgeybots say, as we get to see these ferocious, basically dinosaurs duking it out over mating. We get a cut to the control room, and we get the classic, are we sure that the security system is actually foolproof? Oh, of course, no one can say we don't give them a thrilling ride. We have to send them through all these dangerous areas to really build up the entertainment, while also ensuring they're safe no matter what happens, as long as they follow our rules. And you guess who doesn't follow the rules? Red, who smuggled in his own Pokeballs, because you're supposed to leave your Pokeballs and your Pokemon behind. He throws his ball, misses a Nidoking, catches the Nidoqueen that the two kings are fighting for. They both stop. You can hear the concrete just as they turn to look at him, and the steam from their noses, boom, they crash down and destroy the raft. Red wakes up, and both of the Pidgeots are still there, saying, "See what happens when you break the rules? Now you have to walk to the exit. This place ain't safe. There's a reason you're supposed to stay on the raft, sir. In addition, don't use the Pokeballs. They aren't gonna work. Use one of our Safari Balls. They're the only ones that can actually capture a Pokemon in the zone, and you should catch at least one to assist you on escaping." And the only reason your ball worked is through pure dumb luck, which puts Red down. He's like, "Oh, thanks." The Nidoking appears pretty quickly, as it is revealed that they are going to be hunting down Red since he took away the queen that they were fighting over, seeing him as a potential competitor. Red, without thinking, is like, okay, throws the Safari Ball, whack! Nidoking whacks the ball away. Red continues running, and when the Nidoking strikes, when its claws hit some rock, that rock begins to dissolve. And the Pidgeot goes, "Oh yeah, did we say that the, Nidoking's claws contain a powerful acid?" Again, after it already hits a rock that is now melting, Red picks up a different, smaller rock, whips it, hits the Nidoking in the head, and its head is just stuck back for a moment. And Red's just like, did I do it? And again, just the sound that I can imagine in my head of that stone grinding as the Nidoking brings its head back down. There's a mark on its forehead now, and it is angrier. All, of course, being a reference to the Safari game in the Pokemon games. We cut to a small shot of seeing Red's Pokemon in the control room, all worried as they get to see all of this going on. Red is barely dodging attacks until he trips. One of the Pidgeots takes the hit for him. Actually, the other one has been destroyed, now that I remember it, and is nearly destroyed itself. Red, seeing the parts that are now on the ground, decides to grab one and throw it at the Nidoking. A sharp, metallic object that then stabs the Nidoking in the eye. It screams. It does hit the ground because it just got hit in the eye, and Red runs past. He grabs the bot, and he's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, I'm a bot. So you need to run." And when Red continues running off, we get such a menacing shot of Nidoking. The shard in one eye. It doesn't show that eye, but then we see just these bloodshot veins in the other, and these shadowy tendrils coming off of the side of the panel. It is very angry, and is not going to stop hunting Red, whose leg in turn is very injured. The pant leg is gone. It is real messed up. It's not broken, but Red is still concerned. Is your wing, it doesn't hurt? Pidgeot says, "I'm a bot. Be concerned for your own safety. Of course I don't hurt." Which all this once again speaks to Red's compassion, even for a robot. He doesn't know if the robot can feel pain. He just knows that it has some level of sentience, so, he has to protect it. He feels it in his soul. As they're running and talking, you see a vine start to slither out from some of the other panels and eventually grab Red, pulling him up upside down, as we now see a full-on victory bell. And it looks like Red is just dropped right inside of the victory bell. And we cut to the Safari workers and Red's Pokemon, who are now in the Safari Zone, searching for him, until Pikachu hears Red calling out to him. Chapter 22, a hollow victory bell. We see Red, arms and legs just stretched out, holding himself at the absolute tip of the mouth of the victory bell without actually going in, which very closely under the lip of the inside of the victory bell, we see a leaf fall in to a mouth, a body really full of gastric acid, and that leaf immediately begins to sizzle upon being touched. So since Red is struggling, the Victory Bell decides, okay, fine, wraps him up, brings him to the colony of Bellsprout and Weepinbell, and is completely tied up while hanging upside down alongside other Pokemon, question mark. They kind of just look like regular animals. Pidgeybot reveals that this is actually part of their evolution ritual, that they actually need foods to help them evolve, and Red is on the dinner plate. Night falls. All the Pokemon begin to sleep. Meanwhile, Victreebel holds up a moonstone and then kind of stabs a sand shrew or just a regular shrew. I don't really know. It looks like a regular animal, but starts to guzzle the insides of this creature as if it was a straw. And Pidgeybot states the young Pokemon evolve in their sleep while the elders feed them fertilizer. Well, we're the fertilizer, and we need to go now. A plan is hatched as Pidgeybot is given the awakening flute and wakes up the colony while being a little further away, while Red is able to throw out a Poké Doll. This allows them to ruin the ritual since everyone is now awake, and then the doll actually distracts them, allowing for an easy escape as Victreebel loosens its vines. Though Pidgeybot warns, other Pokemon may have awakened as well. And let me tell you something, Punished Nidoking returns. God, it looks so menacing and cool. Red is able to continually dodge these attacks, and Pidgeybot's like, what are you doing? You need to run. You need to figure something out. Catch something. Do something. I don't know. If you don't do anything and you just keep playing whatever this game you're playing, you're going to die. Well, it turns out Red is actually dodging the attacks of the Nidoking so that way those punches and kicks and all those, attacks end up hitting all of the Victreebel line instead. And his claim is that it'll think that they're coming to steal its prey, being Red, who, in turn, after seeing enough of the carnage occurring, throws a Pokeball. Seemingly, he misses, but instead he catches a Pokemon that he was able to get weakened through Nidoking's indirect assistance, as he has now caught a Victreebel that had caught his attention. He immediately turns the Victreebel around, releasing it, wraps the Nidoking, and then poison powders it, which somehow works on it, and Red then catches the punished Nidoking. I do appreciate that the poison of a Victreebel does work on a Nidoking. Just like real life animals, you would expect different poisons or venoms to work on different creatures. It makes actual sense. And again, it always goes back to the games. You can't have that for the games because of balance. But as Red is standing there, punished Nidoking caught, all of the other Victreebel, all the other plant Pokemon, and Nidoking that are in the area all appear behind him very menacingly. Safari workers and Red's Pokemon find Red's hat. And as they're walking through, the colony of plants and Nidokings appear very menacingly one last time, but they're not going to kill them. Nothing bad's going to happen here because Red appears as their leader riding the front-lining Nidoking. And all the Safari workers go, you caught all of these Pokemon? He goes, you should have seen the ones that got away. So yeah, he caught a ridiculous amount of Pokemon. The Safari is basically his at this point. And it all ends this chapter on Viridian has been closed a long time. The Viridian Gym. And we get one more shot of Giovanni's name and the bust that is in the gym that we saw many chapters ago. Chapter 23, Make Way for Magmar. Red makes his way through Diglett's cave, and we kind of skip over the whole idea of a Diglett here, though coming out of the cave, oh my gosh, it may as well have been, with Red is Giovanni, and It's not in like a negative way. It's not in a like he's trying to hurt Red or anything like that. They're both scuffed up, and it turns out Giovanni is pretending to search for Pokemon fossils, and all the while he's just kind of friendly, talking to Red the whole time, making friendly conversation until Red looks at him and is like, yeah, I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. Oh, duh, what do you mean you've seen me anywhere before? I don't know. I don't remember meeting you. I feel like I've seen your face, though. Do you remember my face at all? And Giovanni goes, nope. Why would I remember your face if you don't remember mine? Come on, that's just silly. He even goes as far to say, I am but a lowly researcher. I can only dream of being as great a trainer as you, Red. And Red, of course, being a little arrogant, responds with, even gym leaders tremble in fear of me. Only for us to get a singular shot of Giovanni snapping mentally. He doesn't snap on the outside. He's not like about to throttle Red on the spot. No, it's like one of those shots in the anime where you see the inner thoughts of the individual, and he is side-eyeing Red so hard. Just the singular moments of, I am fast enough and strong enough to kill you. I am not doing it out of respect and because I want to understand you before I take any action. Red continues to talk about beating the gym leaders and even Team Rocket's finest, just, you know, digging that grave for himself slowly but surely. And it is a very hot day for some weird reason. A little too hot. Giovanni mentally thinks to himself, this heat has to be caused by the flames of a wild Magmar. It's way too hot. No, it has to be two Magmar. What's more dangerous than one Magmar? Patrick, no! Two giant Magmar! God, I messed up that quote so badly, but you know what? I'm happy with it. Red, without Giovanni's assistance, runs ahead, realizing that the research center that they were assumedly already at and taking the fossils back to is on fire. Red goes in, and Giovanni just watches and decides to study Red's technique. Is this truly the kid that I should be weary of? Should I be afraid of what this child can do? Or has it just been pure luck? Or are my underlings absolutely incompetent? Let's find out. So, again, the two Magmar burning down the Museum of Science. Giovanni is watching, and Red decides that he is going to create a Snorlax firewall. Throws that Snorlax, protects him and Giovanni, and even Giovanni goes, isn't that a little bit cruel? Red goes, look, I only need it for a little bit. Snorlax is okay, he can handle it. So, Thick Fat, belonging to Snorlax in the future, could have been, you know, inspired partially by moments like this. So, Snorlax is used as a firewall as Red decides to figure out what needs to be done. Devise a plan, as he says. And Giovanni starts to sit here and go, oh, he's not a threat. This is a child with raw courage and no foresight. Red sends out Sandshrew, which I love little Sandshrew so much, which Giovanni notes is a very low level as Red had just caught it. Though, Sandshrew is using Sand Attack to not only put out the flames, but also continues that attack through to the Magmar. It does no damage, but then Sandshrew starts to run in a circle, creating a sandstorm that covers the Magmar and actually stops them. Giovanni, once again thinking to himself, he knows how to use a Pokemon's ability to the best advantage. A moment of respect that even if he is using weak Pokemon, he is going to intuitively understand what needs to be done to come out with the best results. And we start to see Giovanni slowly reach for his Pokeballs, start to think about whether or not he is going to attack Red, until as the Magmar are stopped, they are kind of encased in Sand Tomb at this point actually. Giovanni questions, are you not going to finish them off? No. I won't attack a defenseless opponent. And Giovanni laughs to himself and puts the Pokeball away out of respect. Why? Red's Pokemon are low on health. He just has the Sandshrew and the Snorlax right now. He is effectively, especially in comparison to Giovanni and Giovanni's skill, defenseless. He would literally be fighting a child without a challenge. And Giovanni knows this, because Giovanni has always been what I love in a villain. He is a mob boss. He is somebody who represents a criminal organization. Yes, he is evil. Yes, he's horrible. Yes, he's done dastardly, horrendous things. But Giovanni is a man of respect. He's always been that way in every depiction that has ever been created of him. He looks at people and makes deals. He respects their word. Yeah, he steals. Yeah, he does all this other stuff. But when it comes to fighting fair to people that he is willing to respect, he does it with the utmost class. And that is very classic mob boss mentality. Very godfathery. Giovanni then tosses him a stone, which it looks like an amber stone. It's ovular and it has a little hole in the center, and I geeked out a little bit. I go, oh, it's gotta be an amber stone. It's gotta be an amber stone. Please let him get an Aerodactyl. It'll be so cool. But Giovanni tosses what I assume is the amber stone to Red and says, since we might not see each other again, take this little gift from me. Do what you will. Red walks away, they part their ways, and Giovanni sits in front of the Magmar. Red is a fool. Magmar are ruthless and will track down the one who beat them. The Magmar break out. They start to run past this smiling Giovanni, who knew that Red should have killed these Magmar. But instead of letting them go, we watch them get frozen in place, completely solid. Cloyster finished them. And Giovanni's Cloyster cuts both of these frozen Magmar in half. A fool like him will destroy himself. All we have to do is wait. Imagine thinking that little boy was a threat to Team Rocket. And he sheds his little disguise that he has, and that final frame of the chapter is showing Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket. Oh, such a good entrance. We get everything we need to know about him. We know, even if you've never ever played Pokemon before, you know he's the leader of Team Rocket. You know that he's powerful because of the Cloyster and what the Cloyster did to two Pokemon in mere seconds. His understanding of Pokemon is amazing because of him being able to figure out that Magmar were here just from the heat in the air. Giovanni is a Pokemon expert. Even further than that, Giovanni is a expert Pokemon trainer. He is physically fit, fast, intelligent, aware of his surroundings, his understanding, and what can become of what already exists and what can be taken further. And if you know Pokemon, you are going to geek out just as much. I cannot even express how much I want you, my dear viewer, after watching this video, because I like view time, of course, but after watching this video, find a way to support and read this series. Do it. I know I'm going to continue doing so because I could not put this down, especially after this moment. This was, if I wasn't already bought on this series when Red was talking to Bulbasaur, I am absolutely bought now. But enough of me gushing, let's move on to chapter 24, What a Dragonite. Red, Krabby, and Poliwrath are diving on Sea Route 19 because it actually does show us what routes they're going on. Red is using a sort of like finder of sorts to like an item finder, I believe. And we get like a little flashback of Professor Oak and him talking, where Professor Oak states that there are 5 attacks your Pokemon can learn from the hidden machines, or HMs. You found 3 so far. You have Cut for Ivysaur, Flash for Pikachu, and Strength for Snorlax. So, as Red thinks to himself, there's still Surf and Fly out there somewhere, and I need to find them since Blue already found Surf. And as he continues diving down, a massive school of Magikarp flish by. And if you are ever in a situation where a mass school of anything, mass school of fish, a large group of deer, any prey animal books it and ignores you, or for that matter, especially if a group of carnivores run past you somehow, I don't know why you'd be in that situation, but if a group of them run past you, that is not because they're just going around, enjoying their time, having a race. No, that's because there is a much larger and imposing threat immediately in the area. And in this case, a humongous Dragonite appears. I mean, its tail alone is so much larger than Red. I'm in love with the size of Pokemon in this series, in this story. I love the difference in sizes. I love seeing a Pikachu be super small and the Snorlax be as big as a mountain. It adds more weight and power without these Pokemon having to be muscled. And that's what we get with Dragonite. Instead of it being goofy in this, it's actually terrifying due to its gargantuan size. So, they get out of the water. Red's sitting here going, we need that HM. We need it, we need it, we need it. We cannot give it up. How about this? Pikachu, I know you're not a good, underwater combat Pokemon, but we're going to send you in and we have a plan. So Pikachu goes in, and he has a vine wrapped around his body. Gets down close to the Dragonite, who's just swimming around. And it's creating such a disturbance in the water, that's why they couldn't go down. And Pikachu gives it a little zap. And you watch the Dragonite slowly turn, and it starts to growl. Pikachu gets incredibly nervous, is pulled out of the water, and the second that the Dragonite follows, Snorlax just runs in and tackles it. Boom! Right onto land, and they start to tussle. Because they are the same size. Just please. We need more of this. Though that could also be because that Dragonite could be incredibly old. I still love seeing this. As they continue to fight, the boulders that make up the small island that they're all on begins to crumble and everyone falls into the water. Red begins swimming for the HM, but Dragonite, being an intelligent creature, sees what Red is after and blasts the HM, completely destroying it. It doesn't miss Red. No, there is a difference in where they are located, and the Dragonite specifically targets the HM. Very intelligent. Unfortunately, with the rubble that then occurs, one of the boulders ends up hitting Red, and his leg ends up getting trapped. And for the third time in this poor boy's life, he starts to drown underwater. He needs to just stay away from water. And he starts losing consciousness. And Poliwrath isn't there. It isn't strong enough. There's nothing that can be done. And he starts to go unconscious. And as his eyes flitter open and close, we see Mermaid Misty arriving with Gyarados in a blurry vision. As that Gyarados is fighting the Dragonite, Misty saves Red and brings him onto the surface, where he now sits and wakes up on a floating Starmie, watching the battle happen. And he's looking, and he's just slowly waking up, like, is that? And the Gyarados, in one of my favorite, funniest shots in this entire series, looks at Red, has this big, goofy smile, and nods at Red. It is my favorite shot. I had to share it with the Discord community. Actually, that brings me to a good point. There is a Discord community. Join it. It's in the description of every video. Just follow the link, join along. It's a good community. I'm pretty proud of it. After the nod, Gyarados and Dragonite, their mouths shine with a brightness we've seen before as we get a double Hyper Beam struggle that results in an explosion and Dragonite dropping. Misty stands proud at the end of the chapter, and it is a sick re-entry to this series. As somebody who loves writing, I was very, very nervous about how the writing was going to be for female characters, because male characters are always like the hero. They're the ones that are always standing on top and all this other stuff. And then female characters are always written as like dainty and weak and crybabies. And I mean, we kind of see that in the anime a little bit, and I'm not a fan of it. Everybody can have their range of emotions, but if you are just going to make one, if you're going to make all male characters machismo and all female characters very crybaby, that's not writing. That's just stereotyping. And even then, it's not even stereotyping. It's like, oh no, women are emotional. That's not good writing. That's not good writing. As a emotional male, that is not good writing. So seeing moments like this makes my heart happy, because in my opinion, you should be able to write your character and then flip a coin or roll a die to figure out if they are male, female, or non-binary, because the gender should not matter when you're writing a character. Very rarely will it actually matter. Anywho, chapter 25, Articuno. Full on shows Articuno above the islands that were in the distance that Red was already looking at, and I wasn't ready to see the legendary birds. I knew we were getting close to the end game as I saw this. Articuno is shown actually escaping Team Rocket, and as it lands, it brings its arms out and a wave of ice comes out as everything starts to freeze around it. Misty, looking at Red, says, "Hey, you really chose a stupid way to try and get Surf, and now it's gone. What are you gonna do now?" "I'm gonna go find another one. How about this?" And she teaches him how to surf on her Gyarados. As this continues and he's learning, grabbing onto the Gyarados' horns, he eventually is unable to stop. He goes, "How do I get this thing to stop?" She goes, "Why don't you ask it to stop then?" Not enough time. He slams it to the sandbar. Him and Gyarados are half buried. Cute, fun little moment. Misty tells Red, "Congratulations, you've made it to the Seafoam Islands. They say a legendary Pokemon lives on these Seafoam Islands. And since you don't have the ability to surf, why don't I do you a favor? Take my Gyarados. It already knows surf, otherwise you're going to be stranded on this island. And in return, I'm going to go ahead and take Krabby. I'll just borrow it and we'll worry about it later. I would stay, but, I got to get back to a gym. I have a life to go take care of." And she assures Red Gyarados is rehabilitated and is no longer, gonna rampage or be anything like it was after it had gotten back from Team Rocket. And she sets off. But as she sets off, she says, "I wish I could stay. I hope he wins the badges he's after." She knows something, and the story keeps hinting at it. Our good gym leaders know something that they are not telling Red. Also, there's a beautiful, once again, shot of Gyarados being so happy, and I love it. I love seeing a happy Gyarados. It's always such a terrifying, intimidating creature, and seeing it with different expressions at first seemed a little cursed, but it grew on me very quickly, and it brings a broken record. It makes me happy. Red continues forward onto the islands and starts to know how everything is so cold and withered. This has to mean Articuno is nearby, and so he sends everyone out to help search for Articuno. They all get a little bit scared, remembering Gyarados from their original encounter for the ones that were there, and for the ones that weren't there, they are still a little scared because it's a freaking Gyarados. All before a Muck appears behind Red. Gyarados moves faster than the rest of the team, is able to drag Red out of the way of danger, and then the team jumps in as Team Rocket is revealed in a big ol' swarm. They reveal that Articuno, in order to protect itself and avoid confrontation, decided to freeze itself. That way, it is perfectly protected. And as long as they can attack it before it breaks itself out, it's theirs. The sudden onslaught of Team Rocket also sends Gyarados into basically a PTSD moment. It starts to freak out, thrashing and losing its mind, all while Articuno does manage to escape, and Red has to choose the legendary bird that there is only one of in existence to his knowledge, and the Gyarados that had already been captured and experimented on and had just been rehabilitated. The one that is in pain right now and is struggling mentally and physically. And he decides to go after the Gyarados instead of chasing after Articuno. Gyarados is hurting. If you'd been captured by them, you'd be going through the same thing. Even Eevee nods at Red, knowing that it has been through what Gyarados has as well. The team absolutely bops the massive muck, and it still continues. It still lives and fights despite the team's efforts, and as they begin to struggle, because it's such a massive, terrifying creature with such deep poisoning abilities, Articuno whips itself around and blasts the muck, saving the party. And Articuno gets away. The team is comfy with Gyarados, Team Rocket is defeated, and the chapter actually ends with Team Rocket claiming how they need to catch the traitor, Blaine. Blaine's back, baby! Chapter 26, Holy Moltres! Red is approaching Cinnabar Island as he begins to see a large fire. He climbs up the rock and actually sees Team Rocket again. And there's a little Gengar. Look at the little Gengar. Look at him, my boy. It's too bad he's on the evil side. Because we also see Blaine's Arcanine and Rapidash fighting against the horde of Team Rocket. They're creating walls of spectacular flame as Gengar seems to be guarding Team Rocket from impending doom because it's a vortex of flame. Team Rocket does see Red. Gengar gets ready to actually just blast him, and Blaine decides to reveal himself, saying, "Leave the boy alone." Team Rocket looks at Red, they look at Blaine, and say, "One wrong move, and the boy drops," and they put their feet close to Red, while Gengar is still prepared. That is, until when Blaine fully surrenders, they look at Gengar and go, "Hey Gengar," use Nightshade on Blaine, and it is a direct attack on the old man. The poor dude is ravaged by Nightshade. Red, in the moments that he has, releases Gyarados to attack, distracted Team Rocket, and saves Blaine, who picks Red up on the Rapidash, and they zoom. As they are escaping, Blaine tells Red directly that he was a scientist for Team Rocket, and they start to notice a ball of fire is pursuing them, and it's not going out with a water gun. It's Poliwrath's water gun, my goodness. It should be plenty enough, no matter what. So why isn't the flame going out at all? And then the flame unfolds itself, and it is revealed to be Moltres. Team Rocket had already captured Moltres and intended to burn Blaine alive. Actually, at this point, they intend to burn Blaine and Red alive. It flicks away a fire spin that was shot at it. It dodges a hydro pump with just pure speed, and then releases flames of its own that destroy the land and then crash the duo off of their steed. Red shows his rock that he got from Giovanni to Blaine, who then reveals it to be an ancient amber. And he begs Red, he begs him, take Rapidash, go to my lab, and revive the fossil. You need to trust me, please. Gyarados and I will run. We'll run as much as we can, but come back. I need you, and I'm going to trust you, so please trust me. And he just sends the Rapidash off with Red, and Blaine gets to the lab. As he's there, he's looking around. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't actually understand any of this. I get it. He was part of Team Rocket, so he's clearly trying to trap me. The Rapidash immediately back kicks him into the wall. And Red's like, okay, yeah, you're right. That's a pretty stupid idea. Rapidash trots on over and gives him a book. Pokemon Fossil Revivification. As Blaine is cornered, we see the birth of Aerodactyl, and it's freaking smiling. Aerodactyl grabs Red, blasts the ceiling, and they fly out of this fake volcano. Right as Blaine is about to give up, completely encircled in flames, rising higher than a building, we get to hear, this can't be the end. I've got to be the one to capture the one that got away, or we're all doomed. Doomed! That Pokemon that I created, Mewtwo! And booming through, we have Aerodactyl, who slams into Moltres, saves Blaine and Gyarados, and the fight is on. With enough aerial dodging, maneuvering, and slamming in, with a couple of rocks thrown in there, Moltres did not stand a chance to this ancient apex predator, and is eventually defeated. Blaine tells Red not to pursue the cowards of Team Rocket as they begin to run away. Blaine tells Red, I must see to it that the bioweapon I created is no longer a threat to anyone. If that makes me a traitor, then so be it. Beyond this route is Pallet Town. Farewell, Red. And Blaine sets off. We cut to Saffron City. The Team Rocket member with Moltres bows before Sabrina. We see Koga has Articuno, and Surge reports right then and there that he caught Zapdos from the power plant. We see Giovanni. Behind him are 3 monitors of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Now that the Mewtwo project is ruined, these will be our aces in the hole. A moment of pure fear. A moment we know about in the main games. And we then cut to Green trying to charm a guard. A guard that might be disguised as Team Rocket, as we are going into the Saffron City takeover. Chapter 27, Calling Kadabra. Blue finds out that he also can't get through any of the gates, as Green has been saying she can't get through any of them on her end, though they're not interacting with each other. I just forgot to mention that immediately. He tries to use Charizard to fly overhead, in which case we see Green up there already flying with her Jigglypuff. And she goes, bing, cute guy in sight. She tries to warn Blue before he ends up slamming into an invisible barrier created by a psychic Pokemon. The only reason that she knows it's there is because she's wearing those goggles that she used to help find Mew. Charizard can't destroy it, and Blue flies off to go see Oak. We cut to Red, who is already on his way to Pallet Town, and it's like, you know what? First up, we're gonna go talk to Professor Oak. I haven't seen him in a little bit, and he hasn't answered my calls, so let's go see him in person. Red walks into the lab and sees Imposter Oak. The Imposter Oak, who then tries to full-on kill Red. It even uses psychic power to escape Ivysaur and blast him away. It is only revealed to be a Kadabra once a Leech Seed is used on this Imposter Oak. And then Sabrina finally appears. Psychic power is being used to crush Red, while Ivysaur's attack just goes straight through Sabrina, and she disappears. As it turns out, it was all an illusion. The lab was already destroyed. Red was under the effect of hypnosis, and it turns out that they've taken Oak. Blue appears, saying, I had a premonition, a bad one, and sure enough, as he stares at the rubble of his grandfather's lab. Blue then shows a picture to Red of Saffron City from an aerial shot with Team Rocket grunts everywhere. And he says, the final battle between our two forces is about to begin. The end of Volume 2, baby! Ooh! Ooh! God! My voice cracked, and I'm keeping that in because I get emotional over these things. Thoughts about Volume 2, it only made it better. I feel like this series only gets better as it goes along. I fear what's going to happen after the first couple of arcs, but I have faith. I have faith that it is going to continue being incredibly good. I know I didn't really talk about this too much at the end of Volume 1, but again, it just keeps getting better and better. It diverges from the normal timelines and information that we're aware of, and expands on Pokemon moves to the nth degree. This is, by far, one of the best pieces of Pokemon media, bar none. And I'll express more of that once we finish Volume 3, but Volume 2, we do see a level difference that is staggering between the members of Red's team. Pikachu at 21, Ivysaur at 38, Poliwrath at 40, Snorlax at 31, Gyarados at 29, and Aerodactyl at 25. And by the way, as a reminder, he just shortens the names of his Pokemon for their nicknames, so Pika, Sor, Poli, Lax, Gyara, and Aero. Volume 3. The last volume that we're going to be covering for today. Chapter 28, Piece of Mime. Red decides to check the PC that holds the Pokemon that he gave to Bill, and that was sent via his transporter to Professor Oak. And they're gone. More specifically, Eevee is gone. But Blue's Pokemon are completely untouched, meaning, as Blue puts it, Red is the reason that they attacked Oak. Red gets angry. And actually, he gets angry even at Blue for saying that. He's like, how dare you? How dare you blame me for him getting hurt? I care about him, and tries to punch Blue, who just completely deflects it, does not care, and says that he will deal with Team Rocket, and for Red to stay out of it. I don't care what Team Rocket's trying to do. They're trying to enslave Pokemon, they're trying to sell them, whatever it is, it doesn't matter to me. That's when Red says, then that's why you should stay out of it. Why? Why are they doing this? Why are they here? It doesn't make sense. Like, they're so actively attacking. Because this is the one place on Earth where Pokemon aren't threatened by pollution. Pallet Town. A palette is the blank surface an artist mixes paints on. Pallet Town was pristine until they came. And it's my town. Whoever kidnapped my grandfather and defiled this place answers to me. So you stay out of this. And Blue flies off. Red, being Red, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not gonna stay behind. Sends out Aerodactyl, flies along. They both decide individually that if this barrier is so perfect, so good all around, there has to be some sort of weakness above or below. So they start going towards the top. And they're like, why are you copying me? Like, we're working independently. How am I copying you? Green sees them and just takes note of it. Golduck is used by Blue alongside of his Pokédex to visualize the thoughts that Golduck is having with sensory psychokinesis. And through those abilities, we're able to see and travel through the city, eventually finding the Mr. Mime, who is in front of the Silphco projecting the barrier. A light screen. And it's kind of cute because we do get to see like a visual of the video game right in front of Silphco on his Pokédex. Meanwhile, Pikachu actually uses Substitute and sends the Substitute through the barrier. The big difference here is that Golduck is being a psychic, well, or at least having psychic abilities, was able to find the source directly. Meanwhile, Pikachu has to start running through the city and wasting time. Until Green says, together you can win. Separately, you can just keep score. Why are you guys treating this like a game? They agree to work together. Golduck transmits the sensory waves to Pikachu, and before the Mr. Mime can escape, being on the move, Blue tells him, send it! He is on the escape! He's on the move! Target is on the move! Pikachu gets the information, moves to cut off the Mr. Mime, and takes it down. And the barrier. As our party walks into the city, or at least Red and Blue visually walk into the city, Surge is watching from the high floor of Silphco. Red as the two of them walk in, falls to a trap floor, and before Blue can save him, a shuriken stabs into the floor, stopping him in his place. Chapter 29, Go for the Golbat. Koga reveals himself and Blue wastes no time, having Scyther slash him. But instead of it slashing into Koga and watching blood spurt out, Koga has a Grimer armor protecting him. The Grimer also ends up, or at least a separate Grimer, then surrounds Blue, preventing him from getting his Pokeballs and trapping him. Actually, even putting the mucky hand, mucky, it's a Grimer, hand around Grimy Hand, Blue's mouth. Just being like, yeah, we're just gonna suffocate you. I'm not gonna play around. Why would I? You've caused so much trouble. We also see on Koga an Ekans like wrist, which I assume shoots poison, I suppose, and a Golbat mirror wrist thing, which looks like it has the arms out and a mirror in its mouth, but we can assume all of these Pokemon we're seeing on Koga are alive. They're just modified, experimented on by Team Rocket. We cut to Red in the basement with electrified walls and Voltorb/Electro just launching at him in their own array of blasts. Surge walks out, revealing himself with Magneton shoulder pads alongside Voltorb and Electrode Bandolier as though they were grenades. And pulls out a gun and flat out grenade launches them at Red. The Electrode are shot like grenades. That's stupid. It's so stupid, but amazing. And he does claim to Red, the room will double, even triple the powers of my Pokemon, and reveals Electabuzz and a Raichu with him as well. I once took the role of a gym leader seriously, with dignity, rules, training, proper Pokemon battles. It was all pretense of power, but real power lets me take whatever I want. Electrodes used via launcher for power and speed. Magneton creates sonic booms for a defensive barrier, and it's all because of Team Rocket tech. Surge even has insulated underwear, saving him from Pikachu's attack, which it's not like literal underwear, it's like underwear, like, I don't know, like thermal wear, basically. Everything in this building is devised to augment our power, which we also get to see Koga saying this. Surge keeps attacking Red, who notices that the Pokemon are attacking in full power from the start, continuously, without tiring, without running out of their own power. He questions this until Zapdos is revealed to be the infinite reservoir of power for Surge's Pokemon. Wires connect from Zapdos, who is completely still and emitting electricity, to Surge, and then that energy is extended to his Pokemon/machinery fueling the Pokemon. In other words, Lieutenant Surge is the conduit for all of this electricity. We cut to Koga. This Golbat wrist thing is also a magic mirror, viewing Red and Surge. He shows it to Blue, and is like, you know what? I'll let you breathe. Because we're not gonna kill you. In fact, I really want to, but how about we use you as a hostage? We have tried so many times to get Professor Oak to join us, but he keeps refusing, being a goody-goody two-shoes. But if we have his grandson, and we torture his grandson, he might just agree. Blue's Scyther escapes, but before it could really slice into Koga again with a proper attack, it's smacked away, and the Golbat uses Razor Wind, which tears into Blue's stomach. He falls down, face first, and is on the ground. Red, we see, is being heavily electrocuted, and then we cut to Green, who is already on the 3rd floor of the building, having infiltrated Silphco without anybody else knowing. So if you noticed, if you watch the visual part of all of this, not many people do, because this is primarily an auditory medium, although I do all the editing and everything for it, so if you want visuals, they are there on occasion when I give examples. If you notice that I was brighter for a while there. My camera settings changed, and I didn't notice that I was looking brighter, so I couldn't fix it. I'm gonna try and fix it in post. Otherwise, I apologize if I blinded anybody. But onward with our story, as we are in the last 10 chapters, with chapter 30, Zap, Zap, Zapdos. Green, as she enters the next room, is put into an illusion under hypnosis by Sabrina and is forced to endure her most terrible and most secret fears. And all we see in this moment are gnarled trees without leaves, a purple sky, or at least what I would assume would be a purple sky, and a building where above it we see like the faint image of a bird. Okay. Is she afraid of birds? Is she afraid of Halloween stories? What is it? We don't really know. But she sends out Blastoise to attack Sabrina, who dodges it with a teleport. Kadabra uses Psychic on Green, and as she is held in place, she loses her Pokeballs. Luckily, Blastoise is out, but the Kadabra disables Blastoise's moves, and as it just strikes into Blastoise's underbelly shell with its spoon, we see it crack. Green, with a Pokeball near her, kicks it. And out comes out another Blastoise as she says, "Will the real Blastoise please stand up?" And I loved it. That's so good. As the original Blastoise that was already out was actually shown to just be Ditto. She sends out a Horsey who slaps out a smoke screen, covering Sabrina and her Kadabra in inky black clouds. And as she can't see, Green uses her headgear to see the psychic power that Sabrina and her Pokemon have while they are blind, and she prepares for her counterattack. We cut back to Surge, who is blasting Red and Pikachu with electricity himself, using his Pokemon again as full-on weapons. Ivysaur is even shot down for a moment, and Surge sits and goes, "Maximum energy, Zapdos!" and prepares for a big ol' thunderbolts to happen. Red goes, "This is the moment we've been waiting for." Has Ivysaur cut the cords and Surge's under armor, causing the electricity to go from Zapdos to Surge with no other conduit, electrifying this gym leader into nothingness. Surge is down. He's not dead, don't worry. I know I was being overdramatic. But Surge is down, and Red takes the Thunder Badge. Nothing is more important than true friendship between a trainer and his Pokemon. The last words that Red leaves Surge with as he makes it upstairs to see Blue on the ground. He tries to hit Koga, but the Golbat smacks Polly away, and Red is then trapped in a Grimer. Chapter 31, The Art of Articuno. Koga holding the Golbat up, wing blades out. All that's left is to remove his head. And before he can do it himself, Blue releases Pidgeot at the last second, and Koga is just decked in the stomach by Pidgeot. It turns out the reflective pendants, the pendant that always hangs from Blue's neck and has a picture inside of him and Professor Oak, saved him. Articuno is then released by Koga, and Red is held at Golbat point. Koga tells Red, because Articuno expended energy to save him, they were actually able to capture it. Articuno was captured all because it wasted that energy. All to save Red, and Red is once again put on that low pedestal of, this is your fault. Articuno prepares to freeze our heroes, but Blue is questioning why is he able to do this? He's controlling Articuno too easily. The Soul Badge! And Koga explains once more, you've forgotten. Everyone seems to forget. Badges are more than just souvenirs. They heighten a Pokemon's power, and they empower the badge holder to control any Pokemon. The power of 4 badges is all that they needed to control Articuno. This is why they threw away gym leader status. They say themselves, with this badge, with these badges, they can control any Pokemon. After all, what 4 trainers would have given their 4 badges to each other without a second thought because they're all joining Team Rocket? Heck, 5 for that matter, although I doubt Giovanni would have given his up. Blaine, Sabrina, Surge, Koga. That's all that they needed. Though that makes me question, what does this mean for our trainers? That, I mean, really puts the emphasis on the whole idea that our Elite Four and our champion are immeasurably powerful. Because assumedly, they would have all of those badges. That's why they stand at the top of the world. Articuno freezes Red's feet in place. Blue is trapped as the resulting Ice Blast also explodes a wall to the outside as he flies back. Articuno is then told to freeze the room as we see Pokemon and our heroes frozen completely. Koga, triumphant, turns his back only to be struck by surprise as Blue, in the moment that the wall had been blown open, had thrown his Pokeball out there containing Charizard, who melts the ice by burning the entire building. He is literally setting the building on fire, resulting with Blue and Red now melting and being freed from their icy prison. Porygon is sent out, hits with a Tri-Attack, Pikachu hits with a Thunder Shock, both targeting Koga. And Blue gives him the simple statement of, "You weren't thinking on a grand enough scale." Koga is defeated. Blue picks up the Soul Badge. The Golbat mirror is used to show where Professor Oak is. And our heroes decide to split up once more. Blue goes to Professor Oak. And Red goes after the scream of Green, going to go assist her. And Blue, looking at the Soul Badge as he's running away, tosses it over his shoulder for Red to catch. Chapter 32, a little Kadabra will do it. That's a harsh one to get the pun out on. We see Green and Horsey actually getting psychic blasted by Kadabra. Sabrina talks about her psychic power, how she has had it since she was a little girl, and how she can see with her mind's eye. So, if she can't see with her actual eyes, she'll just have to use her psychic powers to see the world around her instead. Her and Kadabra actually attack together, holding Horsey and Green in place. Fighting is all you clearly care about, considering your flyaway hair and your tacky outfit. Green attacks Sabrina with those words and causes some sort of like psychic damage, like some, vicious mockery D&D style, as it actually distracts Sabrina long enough for her concentration to drop and allows Green to escape and release more Pokemon. Jigglypuff and Clefairy are revealed. As they growl and sing, it actually messes with Sabrina's concentration even more, and she completely drops the hypnosis hallucination. Green snags her badge and dips. The one thing I like about that is that, once again, she was not just a damsel in distress, and it wasn't her actual screams we were really hearing. We might have heard it. We were probably just hearing her Pokemon screaming, or even Sabrina yelling for that matter. Green is as cunning as it gets. Red finds a contraption as we cut back to him that holds or could hold 7 badges. He picks it up, not really knowing what it is, and outside of the room, we see Rocket grunt. 2 leads all defeated and the building is on fire. Can't stray from the room with the badge energy amp though. Sabrina crosses in front of the room, not seeing Red, and sends the grunts away, telling them, "Did you see an ugly girl come through here? You're relieved of your duty. Go find her." Red, looking at this, hearing that it is a power amplifier and all he needs are 7 badges, shows that he has 6. Brock, Misty, Erica, Blaine, Surge, and the Soul Badge that Blue tossed to him. Red jumps out to sneak attack Sabrina, but instead of Pikachu actually attacking, it stops, sniffs Sabrina, and just sits there. Sabrina looks down and goes, "Aw, Pikachu can tell that I'm not the actual enemy." And what I thought was going to be a massive turn of heel or some sort of ridiculous left field thing, turns out that it was actually just Green in disguise. She was using a Ditto to copy Sabrina's face and was using it as like this kind of terrifying face mask. We cut to Blue, who finds Professor Oak. And Golbat seems oddly nervous, but I'm going to tell you nothing really comes of that. Oak, haggard, says to Blue, "All the people from the town are stuck in a huge Pokemon training ground. The people of Pallet Town have an innate empathy for the feelings of Pokemon. They are trying to use that power to..." And he doesn't really finish. Blue doesn't really let him. Or at least we don't hear it here. As we do get a reveal that Koga, Surge, and Sabrina were flat out torturing Oak. As we see the three of them standing around him, who is just kneeling down, basically fetal position, on the ground. We cut back to Green, who has the... You know what? No. You know what? I was going to continue my script here. That makes me so upset. Like, Professor Oak has been around for so long. He's been such a huge part. He's in every single region. He's in every single anime adaptation. I don't think he's been shown in Horizons yet, but I'm a very empathetic individual, and seeing Oak in pain bothers me. Seeing characters who are always smiling, who are always really happy, even when they're, like, struggling, they're being honest, they're still trying to be positive realistically. When I see them in pain, that hurts me. I struggle to keep a straight face when I see that. And Professor Oak hits me in such a soft spot that, like, you could slap on any happy little phrase you want. You could slap on, like, I don't know, just any word of praise or saying from somebody else and say Oak is saying it, and it would probably hit me in the guts. The last time Oak, like, made me emotional was when, if you complete, I don't remember if it's the first game's Pokédex or you're close to completing the second game's Pokédex, but he says, "You are so close to completing the Pokédex. My life's work and my dream. Something that I never thought would actually be done. Thank you so much for helping my dream come true." I'm a big old crybaby. Anywho, I'm gonna wipe the tears away and get back to the video. Oh man. Anywho, cut back to Green, who shows that she has the Marsh badge and is willing to trade it for the Moonstone that Red has. Which, Clefable, let's go! Yeah! Oh, that's a Clefairy though. Also, I named all of mine Starfruit. Kind of a cute name. Mainly because of the Pokemon Infinite Fusion video that I have. Go watch those. Those have been out for a long time, before I started doing all these video essays. Now, Green actually secretly knows that the Amplifier will actually create a new Pokemon, and that's why she is here, so that way she can catch it. So this whole time, because of all the information she's gotten, she's been ready to catch Mew and whatever this new Pokemon is going to be. And then the real Sabrina shows up. As Red sets the badges, the Amplifier doesn't work. It turns out that Green never gave back 2 of the badges, the ones that she stole from Red during their second encounter, only giving him back the fakes. In this moment, she takes the badge machine and runs. Sabrina sends out Moltres, and then has Kadabra summon the rest of the legendary birds. Green puts in the badges in the hallway, and a ball of light comes out and flies towards Red. Both Green and Red are surprised. Meanwhile, Sabrina simply states, "It's finally going to be here." There's chaos outside as the fire spreads and Team Rocket runs. Brock then appears to block and take down the runaways, and he says, "Now it's time for us to fight together." Brock has the southern gates, Misty has north, Erica has west, and the Celadon folks have east. Saffron is surrounded. Ooh, I love it. And Red and Blue are, as Erica states, definitely have already infiltrated in the headquarters. Unknowing allies kept from knowing the plan just so that Team Rocket wouldn't discover it. Chapter 33, The Winged Legends. The badge device is shown to have actually fused the 3 legendary birds into a singular Pokemon. You know, what you see in Pokemon Infinite Fusion, which turns out took inspiration from this because it's a thing that already happened in canonical Pokemon, and it is very, very scary! Triple Strike, Fire Spin, Thunder, and Blizzard just rips on through towards Red and crumbles the wall. We see Eevee, who is badly hurt and is revealed to have been the prototype for this. Think about it. Eevee, electricity, fire, and water. Zapdos, electricity, fire, and ice, but nevertheless, being able to combine the genes of other Pokemon or mix them around so that way they can become the ultimate weapon. Sabrina talks about how Eevee was used for a few more experiments, but it is now useless. The fate of all lab creatures. Sabrina reveals that they were the ones that destroyed the Pokemon Center in the very beginning of our story before Red fought Brock. That they waited for Red and Blue to collect the badges for them, since this group of individuals, that Team Rocket, they couldn't take it by force because every single time they tried, they couldn't. They failed, and so they just had to wait for someone to do it. We're taking over your beloved Pallet Town. We'll make good use of its unspoiled land, its people with their strange empathy for Pokemon. At last, this place will serve a useful purpose. All while Red is being harried by the fusion Pokemon's attacks. But he refuses to give up. Sends in Pikachu. Blue appears on a hole in the wall with Charizard. The people and Oak are saved. And he says, all that's left is to defeat this freak. The duo are knocked down, and Sabrina prepares to end their lives because the power of this legendary fusion is insurmountable. Red takes a gamble. Beyond the wall that was destroyed was Green, who was in that hallway, who took the brunt force of this hit and is now on the ground, her Pokeballs spread out in the area. And Red remembers how much she wanted the Moonstone. If I could just figure out how to use this on Green's Pokemon, something might just work. There has to be a reason she wanted this. And he holds the Moonstone up. The moon shines onto it, reflecting to Clefairy in the Pokeball, and the Pokeball bursts open as Clefairy evolves into Clefable. And it starts to just wiggle its finger and use Metronome and slams, decimates the legendary fusion for a couple of seconds, long enough for the trio to get up and start to escape. Green is still down, but unfortunately, a sky attack sends them all outside, but they land in a web created from Ivysaur's vines. Green is awake again, and we get to see the starter trio triple attack. Ivysaur, middle of this triple attack, evolves. We have Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise sending everything they have, letting loose their full attack power at the legendary fusion and Sabrina until it is defeated, it unfuses, and our legendary birds are set free. Sabrina is defeated. The building starts to crumble, and as they are about to escape, Red looks over his shoulder to see someone looking at him as they go behind a crumbling pillar. Giovanni, smirking at Red. We get a shot of the aftermath. The 3 leaders and their boss are all beneath that collapsed building. Nobody escaped. After all 4 of the routes out of the city are controlled. All Pokemon are retrieved. Green is hiding. Blue looks at Red and says, Red, I look forward to meeting you at the Indigo Plateau. And this chapter ends with a Mewtwo explosion escape reveal. Blaine is there and clearly hurt as he yells at the top of his lungs, Don't let it escape! And the lab completely explodes. Chapter 34. And Mewtwo too? Blaine wakes up. It was just a dream. Oh, I gotta get to the lab. But, of course, was it really a dream? We learn about what is the Beast of Cerulean City. Nothing but devastation out yonder. Northwest Sector's just a Northwest barbecue now. As Bill talks to Red about it all. Don't go check it out now. It's a bad idea. Red, smiling, on the phone with Bill, says, yeah, about that, I'm already there. The town is deep fried, and the creature dipped into the Cerulean Caves. As Red goes through it, he actually says himself, the whole place looks like it was twisted. Not that it was actually burned, it just looks like it was all weirdly twisted by something with a giant hand, or I don't know. As they get close to Cerulean Cave, his entire team of Pokemon are terrified. They don't want to go in. This is another thing. When it comes to your animals, your pets, anything, understand this. They have intuition. If they're afraid, there's usually a very good reason for them to be afraid. Especially if they normally aren't scared of things. A tornado appears from within the cave and hits everyone. Aerodactyl is sent out and saves the party, pulling them up until Red realizes he has to get them into their Pokeballs or they'll just get dragged back in again. But as he looks down, all of his Pokeballs for his Pokemon are gone. So he reaches into his bag, recatches them all in the middle of a tornado. It is so underplayed how impossible that is and how much skill that has to take. But whatever, we move on. As Blaine, with his Rapidash, does save Red and tells him, this is no ordinary tornado. The flames of Rapidash bounces back as it shoots into the tornado, as the cyclonic energy is powerful enough to twist anything and serve as an impenetrable shield that flings anything back like a boomerang. And it's kind of cool because they showed the little science of it in an image, which actually kind of makes sense. It's a reverse, like, you know, what is it called? A cyclone in the water? I don't know how to, my brain isn't. Whirlpool, that's what it is. It's like a reverse whirlpool. Blaine calls it a perfect offense and defense. The dreaded Psy Wave. The master of it sits at the bottom of it like an antlion. The one and only Mewtwo. Mewtwo smiles at its victims and then starts to disappear. But we cut to see Blaine's arm melting as he looks around and goes, Mewtwo is over there. As he reveals that Mewtwo is created from the genetic cell of Mew. But it was impossible to create an entire creature from the few Mew cells we cultured. So I added some human cells to the mix. My cells from my own forearm. Alas, a backwash of renegade Mewtwo cells found their way up into my arm. Soon, this arm will be useless, and in the end, Mewtwo's cells will control my entire body and take my life. The shared cells enable them to know when Mewtwo and Blaine are close to each other, calling it the resonance effect, a natural tracking device. It's so cool! It's so cool! I don't care if I'm a nerd about it. I don't care if you made it this far in the video, you are too, but oh my god, please gush with me in the comments about this. This is the best Blaine out there. Bar none. The best Blaine and Mewtwo. I'm probably not the best Mewtwo because there's Mewtwo with a lot more depth or personality, but the best dynamic. One of the best dynamics out there and the best Blaine. It's so over the top. I know it's goofy a little bit, but I'm all in. I'm bought. And he continues, I am a living Mewtwo locator. When I am gone, there will be no hope, so we have to end this here. Let Team Rocket call me a traitor. Let them hound me to the ends of the earth. What should I fear now? Blaine wraps Red in fire, which is to protect him and send him out of their cyclone, as Blaine heads into the center of the cyclone to confront Mewtwo himself. His theory is that if he blasts energy equal to the energy creating the storm straight into the very heart of it, he can stop the storm. And so he decides to do so, saying, "With my own body, one final blow!" Rapidash basically just uses Flare Blitz with Blaine on its back, and boom! The Twister is gone. Blaine is collapsed. He reveals how he had first seen Red at the HQ early in the story, when he had ended up learning about Mewtwo in the first place. How Blaine threw away his gym leader position to sate his scientific curiosity, and how he had no qualms using Eevee and Gyarados as lab subjects back then. He commends Red for his love and compassion of Pokemon, how he protects them, and admits how he became ashamed of the person that he had become, how he had created a ferocious beast and succeeded, but how the beast was actually himself. Red is the reason Blaine turned against Team Rocket. Red, Blaine says, is the source of Blaine's strength and courage. There will be no more victims of Mewtwo. That is, until a pebble hits them. And then just like freaking Frieza in the Namek saga, Mewtwo is standing up slowly and begins to summon a freaking spoon! A spoon! And smacks Poliwrath away! And Red is ready to battle, and Blaine tries to help him as he is struggling. He tells Red, Mewtwo will adapt its power to any situation. If there are multiple enemies, it will summon the Twister. If there are single enemies, it brings out the Spoon, the Psychic's ultimate weapon! Genetically engineered for combat, nothing in nature can equal Mewtwo. There's nothing you can do but destroy Mewtwo. And Red sits there and goes, bet, and sends the team out. Mewtwo switches to the Tornado, but as everyone gets sent away, Red is already on Aerodactyl, ready to dive bomb Mewtwo, all before the Twister gets too strong. And, unfortunately, as Red gets blown back, he fortunately had one last step in his plan as he throws out the Pokeball containing Pikachu, who, in his mouth, is holding a Master Ball. Mewtwo, you see the moments of shock in his eyes as Pikachu catches Mewtwo in a Master Ball. And Blaine flat out just exclaims, "My lord!" I was so hyped for that moment. I actually was laughing with joy and excitement because I don't think I've ever seen something like that. I would pay money to see this whole, like, even if it's just this fight get animated. It would be a short animation, unless you want to go, like, you know, full Demon Slayer and you add a lot of beautiful shots to what is otherwise a 2-page, you know, fight and whatever. But that is to commend the artists that worked on it, by the way. That's not to disparage them, but I digress. I need to see it because I see it in my head, but it's not a visual medium that everybody can see in their heads. We need it physical, viewable option of this so badly. Red takes the Master Ball of Mewtwo and hands it to Blaine. Mewtwo, by the way, seeing that we can see into the Pokeball, is so angry. And telling Blaine, says, Mewtwo is a scary creature, alright? But it's been held prisoner in a lab its whole life. All it knows about humans is that we're cruel and arrogant. But what if it learns something different? What if it sees that not all humans treat other creatures badly? Find out, Blaine. Teach it. And our story comes full circle, as Red did the same exact thing for Bulbasaur in the first few chapters of our story. Cyclical storytelling is an incredibly effective tool. It's one of my favorite tools out there, actually, because it doesn't cheapen the moments of the past. Instead, it allows us to see the growth between the beginning and the end, especially if the stakes are higher towards the end and we get to see a similar moment to the ones we saw at the beginning. I highly recommend cyclical storytelling. You don't always have to do it. It's not always a good idea to do it. But those little callbacks, those little indirect callbacks, because it didn't, in the manga, give us a shot of Bulbasaur in this moment. Instead, it just keeps with Mewtwo and Blaine, no flashback, but us as the reader, if we connect those moments, it hits a little better. And for me, it did. Now, the pain in Blaine's arm starts to subside, and he looks at Mewtwo and asks, "Your pain must be subsiding too. Is this a sign of your willingness to start over?" And Blaine remembers what he aspires to be, something that Red encompasses. A Pokemon trainer. Someone who spends his life with, trusts, and is... Oh, dang it! Trusts and is trusted by his Pokemon. Someone like you, Red. And of course, Red doesn't hear, so Blaine covers it up by saying it'd be fun to battle sometime. And of course, Red just flat out accepts. Red helps Blaine with walking, and then claims that he'll be off to the Indigo Plateau. Chapter 36. Drat, that Dratini! We see Red save a little girl from a very big Dratini. I had to double check and make sure it was a Dratini and not a Dragonair. He teaches the kid how to catch a Pokemon and allows her to even use Pikachu. There's a small moment where he's like, you should probably hurry up. Pikachu's getting a little impatient as Pikachu's looking back, just staring down the girl while Pikachu is sitting in front of the what was it? I already said the Rattata. I apologize. Sitting in front of the Rattata, knowing that this Rattata isn't going to be able to hurt Pikachu. And once again, cyclical storytelling. What did he do at the beginning of all this? He helped some kids, learn how to catch Pokemon. Though this time, instead of him being arrogant and beating down the Pokemon and catching it himself, he's being patient, kind, compassionate. And so is Pikachu, for that matter, showing growth in trainer and Pokemon, and allows this aspiring trainer to catch their first Pokemon. After she catches a Rattata, they get surrounded by unusually savage wild Pokemon as multiple Golem and Weezing appear. They do escape with Arrow's help, and Red goes to drop the kid off at home. And Red starts to think to himself, that Dratini should not have been there. That was Viridian Forest. And neither should any of these vicious wild Pokemon be here. Why are they here? And as he tries to investigate by talking to residents of Viridian City, he gets told how many unusual Pokemon and how many of these types of Pokemon these people have never seen before have started appearing all the time. The people of town tell Red the gym has been closed for a long time. The invincible gym leader disappeared one day and has not returned. No one even remembers or really knows what he looked like. He was just this mysterious, invincible gym leader. Red prepares to cross the river to go to the gym, but first tells the little girl how Pokemon can be scary, but they're basically kind, loving creatures. If their owners are bad and train their Pokemon to do bad things, then they'll grow up to be bad too. But if you raise them with kindness and gentleness, they'll always be your friends. Red departs, making his way to the gym. Venusaur uses his vines to kind of look into the building and sense things around before, without Red telling him to, bursts through the front door, revealing that this is the place that they were at with Professor Oak so long ago, with a Machoke that Bulbasaur actually defeated. Red sees the bust once again, that we know is Giovanni. He says it looks familiar, but it's all damaged now. He can't read the name, he can't tell the face, and then a massive flash gives the entrance to Giovanni, who had been waiting. You must be a fairly experienced trainer by now. An expert, even. as Giovanni keeps talking, speaking of Red's journey, the badges, the fossil hunting, the collapse of Silphco where Team Rocket was hiding, Red recognizes the voice and realizes who he's talking to. Chapter 37, Golly Golem. Giovanni officially says his name to introduce himself and how he is Team Rocket's leader. He also reveals that it's only the two of them in this gym, how he has no reason to lie, as he can tell Red is assessing the situation, trying to figure out if they truly are alone, if there are any tricks, anything up Giovanni's sleeve. But no, it is just the two of them. Giovanni even releases all of his Pokeballs. I'm even unarmed. You have me at quite the disadvantage. And it only shows 5 Pokeballs. Now come at me with all you've got. As Poliwrath attacks, Giovanni states how it only took 3 seconds of hesitation and action from Red for Giovanni to move quickly, reach his own Pokeball, and release Cloyster as it freezes Poliwrath. He counts the seconds. The trainer's own power, skill, and speed are just as essential to the Pokemon that they train. Giovanni finds it a shame that Red isn't on his side. Red's stubbornness, his explosive energy, and empathy for Pokemon could be useful for him. Red says, I would never join the likes of you. And Giovanni says, yeah, I know. Your independence and honor are among the traits I admire in you. So, how about a bet? If Red can defeat Giovanni under his challenge, as all their Pokeballs are still on the ground, and Red has 5 Pokemon at his side as well, then Giovanni will accept Red's decision to not join. But if Giovanni wins, then Red will spend the rest of his life battling for Giovanni as his right-hand man. Red accepts the challenge, and the last words we hear from Giovanni as the battle begins is, that's what I look for in a lieutenant. A 5v5, they have to get their Pokemon to test their trainer skill and then battle, testing their Pokemon skill. A fair fight means my best against your best. A Nidoqueen slaps Snorlax out of the gym wall. A Golem is sent in to strike Red, using rollout and bouncing all over the gym. Red waits for a direct attack, not releasing another Pokemon, and then eventually lets the Golem pass out the hole in the wall, all to get a strong headbutt from Snorlax and crumbling the Golem, but it's still standing as Giovanni goes, this would be a shame were not for the fact that this is what his best move involves, falling apart. As the rocks are thrown into Snorlax before Golem explodes point blank. With both the Golem and Snorlax down, Red is held at needle point by Beedrill. Giovanni states how he had all of this planned out the second that Red chose Snorlax. With a ball hiding under his foot, Red kicks it and releases Aerodactyl, allowing him to escape from the deadly Beedrill. As we move into Chapter 38, Long Live the Nidoqueen! Aerodactyl's Hyper Beam knocks out the Beedrill, but an earthquake shakes the gym's structure. Red saves Polly, but then gets hit by a falling rock in the process. They barely escape, but a Nidoking sits before Red as he is on the ground, being shown to be the source of the earthquake that crumbles the gym. Giovanni reveals that he's been using Pokemon that are outside of his specialty, but you're actually forcing me to use my best fighters. A Rhyhorn prevents escape with Aerodactyl. The ground collapses as Red is left hanging, and Giovanni, the master of ground Pokemon, reveals his team. Dugtrio, Rhydon, Rhyhorn, Nidoqueen, and Nidoking. The Gems of Viridian City Gym. Giovanni sees Red reaching for 2 Pokeballs and destroys the opening mechanism of them, leaving Gyarados and Venusaur trapped, the most effective Pokemon for this situation. You traveled throughout this land and survived challenges that no one imagined you could, but you never realized that every place you visited and fought was already under my control. Giovanni then connects all the pieces that have been laid out this entire time. Celadon Labs for biomodification, training the Pokemon in Saffron City, Viridian to Cinnabar Island, Vermilion for SS Anne, all to avoid the snitches of goody-goody gym leaders and their cities, all before being brought back to the breeding ground, where they regained their primal savage powers within the vast depths of Viridian Forest. No gym leader means all the privacy he could want to create an army of unstoppable Pokemon. Red stands up. Pikachu's Pokeball bounces to him. This isn't just a battle against a gym leader anymore. This is a battle to stop Team Rocket, and I'm gonna win! Giovanni predicts the battle and his own success, stating how it'll take 2 seconds to get the ball and open it, a second for your Pokemon to react, and then another 2 seconds for it to actually hit us. By then, my Poison Sting will have already hit you, and we start to get a countdown. 5 seconds remaining as Pikachu leaves the ball. 4 seconds remaining as Pikachu is shown already charged up. 3 seconds as Giovanni realizes what has happened. 2 seconds as it's too late for Giovanni. A final snap of Red's fingers, and a thunderbolt rips through the Nidoqueen and Giovanni. Giovanni questions how that's possible. You should have been electrocuted by holding a ball with that much electricity going through it, as Red reveals that he was protected by a glove that was originally used by Team Rocket. Otherwise, the electricity would have fried Red from just holding the ball. As Giovanni slowly passes out, he states, "Defeated by my own technology." And Red goes, "No, you were defeated by how you couldn't be compassionate towards Pokemon." Red wins, and he faints. He is saved by the people of Viridian, who have no idea why the gym is destroyed, but are calming the wild Pokemon. And Red is invited to teach them how to train Pokemon so they can defend themselves. But he leaves, saying how he'd only do it once he has achieved enough to be a true gym leader, and that he'll become the best gym leader ever. We cut to the fan club director again, holding a Spearow that he just randomly found and loves it, but it is taken back by an unknown trainer who enters into a competition, which is the Pokemon League, as we see them happy to know Green, Blue, and Red have already entered. So, we have reached the climax of the Red arc. Our last 2 chapters. Chapter 39, Just a Spearow Carrier. We see Red make it to semifinals in Group C. Blue makes it to semifinals in Group D. He jumps down to Red and says, "Every single winner of the championships has been a trainer from Pallet Town. The question is, which one will it be?" Green is shown trying to swindle people with her charms and wit as always, but she does place in first in Group A of her own skill. She also then reveals that she is also from Pallet Town. Bill appears to congratulate Red, making it to be one of the last 4. And they find out it's Red against Blue next, with Green against an unknown individual, with Group B winner being named Dr. O, which, of course, yes, we know, it's literally Professor Oak in fighting attire and a band wrapped around his face, and he is the Spearow holder. Just a Spearow. And he is going up against Green. In the fight between it and Jigglypuff, they go back and forth, but the Spearow outspeeds Jigglypuff and even their songs. Green reveals that she doesn't have a flying type. It's too fast, and people are exclaiming, you can't fight it unless you use another flying type. It's too high up in the air. Dr. O shows off a team then full of flying types. And people start to realize this Dr. O has to know Green's weakness. Otherwise, he wouldn't just have flying types. Let this be a lesson. Stealing is wrong. As he just vanishes and appears behind her. Dr. O, though, does get blasted back. Blastoise launches onto the scene and takes to the skies as a backpack for Green using Hydro Pump. If I don't have a flying-type Pokemon, that's fine. Who says flying is restricted to your rules and has to be a flying type? I will do it my way. And as the Blastoise uses Hydro Pump, blasting away the Spearow for a moment and hitting Dr. O, Green says, why don't we take this mask off of you and see who you really are? Though unfortunately for her, the Spearow uses Mirror Move, hitting them out of the sky before Dr. O can have his mask taken off. Green collapses as the Spearow gets closer, and she reveals that she has a phobia of flying-type Pokemon, as 6 years ago, as said by Dr. O, a little girl of 5 was abducted by a large legendary bird Pokemon, and you can see that it's Ho-Oh. It is clearly, very clearly Ho-Oh. Dr. O wanted to get involved as he had a grandson of the same age, only to find out it was the same girl that stole his Squirtle. That's when he reveals himself as Professor Oak. Green tries to attack, but one more mirror move wins Professor Oak the match. Green is questioned, and she says she only did it because it wasn't fair. She grew up in a place she didn't know, with no family, only remembering that she was from Pallet Town. She found out about Red and Blue and their journeys beginning, and wanted to do it too. She was from Pallet Town. Why couldn't she do this? She deserves this. She deserves this start. She would have had it if she was actually there and grew up there with her family like she should have if it weren't for that bird. She wanted to go on a Pokemon journey. And Oak reminds us that our main characters are still growing young adults. And instead of chastising her, tells her to simply promise that she understands stealing is wrong and hands her the third Pokédex. Now you two are a trainer from Pallet Town. She, of course, breaks down. I'm tearing up now. I cried a little when I read that. And, of course, Bill is in the stands crying as well, as he's like, I can understand what it's like to be taken by a bird. And it's... I love it. A perfect sentimental moment. And it doesn't weaken Green's character at all, in my opinion. She fought well. She fought against Professor Oak. And Professor Oak kind of fought dirty. Again, knowing she was afraid of birds. All with the intent of teaching her a lesson, but not to humiliate her. To give her a second chance. A new life. And make her dream a reality. This explains why she's so conniving. Why she's clever and trickstery. Is because she's always had to fend for herself. By herself. With nobody there to help. She had to do what she needed to against the world in order to survive day-to-day life. We're in the locker rooms and Blue says whoever wins, this means that they have to fight Oak. And Oak says, nah, I already won a championship once. And we get a shot of Agatha against him. I don't need this. I'm bowing out. It's just you, Red and Blue. Entering into Chapter 40, the final chapter of Volume 3, and what I call the Red Arc. A Charizard and a champion. Red and Blue open the fight with the starter Pokemon we know and love, Venusaur and Charizard. A poison powder saves Venusaur when Charizard gets too close, following with Razor Leaf. We see both of our heroes dodging attacks, and Snorlax is sent out next to Mega Punch Charizard. But Blue sends out a Machamp to hold the arms and legs of Snorlax. The two locked in a grapple, when in reality, it actually is a one-sided grapple. Snorlax bends backwards as Machamp is ready. Blue states, let's skip the cheap tricks, shall we? See if you can take me head on. It's a sumo match between the two giants, but Machamp lifts the Snorlax over his back. You can see the moment of struggle and shaking, but then the Machamp
flips, spins, and slams down the Snorlax, breaking the arena floor. Before the final blow, we watch Snorlax's body get sharper, more blocky as it uses Harden. Red was prepared for this moment, hoping that the Machamp would slam its arm down with the karate chop, and its arm would be injured, put out of play, and leaving it with only 3 arms to fight with. But Blue knew this would happen, and instead of hurting Machamp's arm, it moves the attack and attacks the ground instead, sending Snorlax flying with leverage from the broken floor. As the Greeks said, "Give me a long enough lever and I can move the earth." And Oak is proud of Blue. He says how Blue is no longer arrogant and too impressed with his own ideas, how he's learned to adapt and has become more like Red. Snorlax was ready to be counted out, as everyone expected it to touch the ground outside the arena. Red even keeps his head down, calm, and saying nothing. Until Snorlax comes crashing back down from the sky, fist first ahead of it as it uses Double Edge and slams into the Machamp. Oak notes then how Red has learned to keep his cool and shore up his instinctual approach with knowledge, all like Blue. Seeing Machamp's condition, Blue returns it to the ball rather than forcing it to fight. Red questions in his head if this is really the same guy who didn't notice when a baby Kangaskhan was sick, and Blue tosses in Ninetales. You can continue seeing the back and forth of learning that they had from each other. Red draws back Snorlax. "Somebody told me once that you've got to know your limits." And Blue states, "And someone told me there's no satisfaction in beating a weak opponent. Pick your next Pokemon, Red." The two of them are smiling at each other. As Red chooses his next Pokemon carefully, the crowd is cheering, "Red! Red! Red! Blue! Blue! Blue!" And we see the silhouettes of the Elite Four as they briefly speak to each other. "Which one's your favorite?" "Oh, I prefer this one. I prefer that one." "Watch the battle." Blue has Ninetales send out flames as Red has done nothing but wait until Poliwrath is then released. The Fire Blast traps Red and sends Poliwrath into the air alongside water as it slams into the ceiling. The vortex of hot air moving everything upwards. Light Pokemon, water moves, it doesn't matter. Pikachu is then sent out, but the air carries it up too before they both slam down and Blue withdraws Ninetales. Charizard is sent back out, releasing more roaring flames as Red releases Venusaur again and wraps up Charizard. Blue tells Red, "Of course you would want to end this with the Pokemon that we got from my grandfather. Just the sentimental Red that I always knew." But then the plan is revealed. And he looks up, he's like, "What is that rain cloud doing up there?" And Red says, "That's not a rain cloud, that's a thunder cloud." And Red explains, superheated water droplets from Poliwrath condensed into a cloud that's been charged with lightning by Pikachu's electric energy. And when that energy builds enough, it will hit Venusaur, travel through the vines, coursing through them, and into Charizard, a living lightning rod. And as that electricity shoots through Venusaur, Red yells out to Blue, "These 3 Pokemon and I have been through a lot together. We know each other. We get shots of the journey from the very beginning. But you don't really understand friendship." A massive, foggy explosion is released. Blue and Charizard collapse, and we see Red, Venusaur, Poliwrath, and Pikachu barely standing as Red is supported by Venusaur's body and Poliwrath's hand. He is named champion, and then he collapses. We see Green calling for an endorsement deal since Oak withdrew, making her a 3rd place in the championship. With the match over, Red and Blue smile at each other, both of them patched up. And far above the arena, Mew watches before zipping away.
Now let's go home to Pallet Town. The final levels of our Pokemon. Pikachu, 51. Venusaur, 60. Poliwrath, 61. Snorlax, 52. Gyarados, 48. And Aerodactyl, 41. And so we close the first big arc of the Pokemon Adventures manga as Team Rocket is defeated and we have our champions. I would love to tell you how much I loved it, but I know in editing I'm going to keep those moments where my voice cracked and I teared up, and you're gonna hear it. And I don't think I could give a better recommendation or endorsement than letting myself be shown to have gotten emotional. I loved this. I have been playing Pokemon, I don't know, since I was under 10 years old. My first Pokemon game being Pokemon Crystal. And I fell out of Pokemon because I was poor. Couldn't really play the games if you don't have the consoles or the games. And as I got older, I was able to start getting back into it. And I never put it down again. And as I grew into being a full adult, I wanted to recapture Pokemon with a more realistic and modern view of it, a scientific view, historical view, anything that I could. So that way I could relive Pokemon in a new way and have excuses to read all the books and do a ton of research about real life and share it through Pokemon. And I do this, through all of my other videos. But nothing will come this close to making me relive my childhood once more. Actually, let me take that back, because I'm pretty sure the next arc revolves around the Elite Four, and if, that already isn't going to be emotional, when we get to Johto, I pray that it's going to be just as phenomenal, if not better, because that's going to hit me in the gut. That's going to hit me in the gut so hard when I see Ho-Oh and Lugia and Suicune, and that might make me fully relive my childhood. But this had me so excited. I read the first volume in a couple of hours. 300 plus pages. And then yesterday, I have read 2 volumes in the course of 4 hours, I believe it was, and then I've been recording. I recorded yesterday, I recorded today, 2 different days. If you're not actually viewing the video, obviously, I don't blame you again. But I couldn't help myself. I was so giddy and happy and excited. I love the writing. I love the Pokemon. I love seeing it all in a new context. It's perfect. And don't get me wrong. It's not like I don't know how to put it. I don't want to cheapen this by saying it's not this absolutely mind-blowing, world-changing thing, but not everything needs to be. You can have the cheesy lines and the fun of it all and have it still be meaningful. Have it be something that is supposed to show what Pokemon has always been about. Compassion between people and animals. Cohabitating the world together. And keeping nature a part of our own minds. And all of that hits a soft spot for me. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please share it. I want to do this again. I want to read everything about this next arc that revolves around the Elite Four, and then make another video on it. And then do the same for the next arc, and the next arc, and the next arc. So, support the channel in any way that you can. Subscribe, share it with others, watch the other content as that helps support the channel, or even go the extra mile and become a member of the channel for as little as $3 a month. You can become a member here on YouTube or Patreon. There's 3 different tiers. They do have different benefits. Join the Discord community, as you get a special chat and you get to bully me in there basically whenever I talk about stuff that doesn't usually make it to Patreon or Discord all the time. and, you know, you have a special chat that gets to see all of it. If you want to see videos early, then I recommend you become a member on YouTube and not Patreon, because these videos are too long to really be putting on Patreon. So, all of that helps, considering I'm a one-man band here, and I love this. And I don't need to say it. I don't need to say it every time. I've shown it. So, thank you to all of our members that you saw on screen on that wonderful list in the credits. As you can see your name there as well. And as always, don't do anything I want to do. Don't do anything I want to do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!